What is going on, everybody? Hopefully you guys are having a great day out there. And I tell you what, the sports card business has never seen bigger news that I think that we've seen this week. And you know it's big when I don't even want to do these podcasts, to be honest with you. I've got a YouTube channel with 90-something thousand subscribers. I get paid thousands of dollars to post videos on YouTube. And here I am talking about baseball cards for free, not once, but twice during the same week. So folks out there, you better believe. And not only that, at the current moment at 9:43 p.m. Pacific time on Thursday, we are being joined by Ryan, who is at Sports Card News on Twitter. Over 10,000 followers on Twitter. How many you got?
Somewhere in there, probably.
Like somewhere in that range. So someone who is obviously well versed to discuss the news of the day. A few days ago, we were discussing PWCC, and I thought, man, maybe we'd come back, talk about it a little bit more. But believe it or not, that story has gone on the back burner after the absolutely explosive details today that Fanatics is now potentially the only maker of trading cards, not baseball, not one, not two, basketball,
not three,
and maybe even three, including the NFL. That is right. A new company, not Panini, not Topps, not Upper Deck, not Leaf. Come on. Fanatics is going to hold the exclusive license to make trading cards in every single major sport. Ryan, did you ever expect to see the day that we are seeing today?
No, I did not expect to see a day where there would be one entity such as Fanatics to just come in and basically, flex as much muscle and money and might as we've ever seen in this industry. Not really since Panini, I guess, in 2009 kicked everybody out of the NBA, but that's nothing compared to this. Especially at the height we are at the market, we are in the popularity of cards, especially in the last, I guess 4 or 5 years here, you've really seen an elevation. And in the last 2, you've really seen it go up. So no, never thought I'd see this. And that's what makes it so shocking. That's what makes it also fun. And I think we should just, relish the moment that we're sitting here all these years later and basically, Topps, Panini, and really a lot of people associated with sports cards, their whole life changes. This was a Black Thursday. They're going to remember the date. 8/19. They're going to be called this 8/19, like 9/11 and Black Friday and all this kind of stuff. They're going to be called this 8/19 in the card world because this is going to be the day where a lot of lives and fates and businesses changed. That's just in a stunning move today. Absolutely stunning.
And before we get into today's show, I want to talk about what we're going to talk about. First thing we're going to talk about is the licenses and kind of walk you through the different types of licenses, just in case some of you guys are new and maybe need a little refresher on that. We'll talk about what this means for Topps and Panini in particular, maybe even a little bit for Upper Deck and maybe even for Leaf as well. We'll talk about what this means from the existing card makers. Talk about what this means briefly for MUDS stocks. Many of you guys have been fooled into that being a good investment. Ticker symbol MUDS. At the current time, that is trading below $10 per share. I guarantee you, if you're watching this, you probably paid much, much more than that. And then finally, we'll close this out talking about what we think Fanatics is going to do, what this means for Fanatics and the overall card business in general. And before I want to get into that, I want to show you guys something. Obviously, Ryan and I have been on Twitter most of the day discussing this with our fellow collectors. And early in the day, I started tagging Michael Rubin, who is the CEO of Fanatics, who is the one controlling the deal that has just gone down with the exclusive license. And I have been explaining on Twitter to people what I believe he is going to do as a fan of his and somebody who has known his business career since the 1990s when he was in his 20s. I have followed Michael Rubin for a very long time and understand the businesses that he is in. I'm passionate about e-commerce. That is a business where he made his first really big money. And I was an owner of the stock of Fans Edge, which is a company that Fanatics bought. So I actually profited off my boy, Michael Rubin. And I can officially call him my boy today, because on Twitter today, Michael Rubin, the CEO of Fanatics, I think you guys can see that. He is following on Twitter 345 individuals. And you guessed it, one of them happens to be right under, whose name is right under Jeff Bezos? Can you see that? These are
Bezos,
Michael Rubin.
you and Major League Baseball.
Following Michael Rubin, the people Michael Rubin are following. There's Rolex at the top. You guys want to see one of those? Yeah, it's only worth about 18K. I only paid 15. Shaq, how much money is he worth? Oh, who's underneath that? Jeff Bezos. How much money is Jeff Bezos worth, Ryan? And guys, right under Jeff Bezos. Right under Jeff Bezos. That's where I like to be, baby. Right under Jeff.
Wow.
Me. And so
that's quite a list there.
That's quite a list. Rolex and Jeff Bezos, probably two of my most favorite things in the world, considering I don't.
Can we not forget about Shaq too? I mean, come on now.
Shaq, obviously. Yeah. Well, yeah. I'd be under Shaq, and that'd be a pleasurable experience.
You would get stepped on. Yeah.
Yeah. I'd enjoy it. He can step on me anytime he wants. He follows 345 people on Twitter. Rolex, Shaq, Jeff Bezos, and yes, yours truly. And I don't think he was following me to slide into my DMs and tell me how wrong I was about the theories that I think he is getting into with Fanatics. And just in case you guys were wondering, if being followed by the new exclusive owner of the MLB license and somebody that's worth $8 billion, Michael Rubin owns the 76ers. Okay. And among other things, I mean, when the third thing I mentioned is that you own the Philadelphia 76ers, you're probably a pretty accomplished guy. The guy sold the company to eBay for over $2 billion. I can go on and on and on. My day job is analyzing companies, analyzing stocks. There's my channel. 91,000 subscribers. There's not many people in the card business that are being followed by Michael Rubin and that have a YouTube channel where all I do is analyze companies and deals and financials that has over 90,000 subscribers. And by the end of the year, I'll be at 100,000 subscribers on YouTube. And not only that, how many guys in the business can show you one of these? Or two or three. We could go to the safe and get the other ones if we needed to. I'm not trying to brag. I'm not trying to flex. I'm trying to tell you there are people in this business that know what they're talking about. And in this situation, in this hobby, in terms of people that record podcasts and put videos on YouTube, there is no one, absolutely no one in the world that can explain the situation that happened today in the baseball licensing world better than the people you are watching right now. So if you are not interested in being educated, if you are not interested in knowing the truth and knowing what's going to happen over the next 2, 3, 4, 5 decade, turn it off. Go turn on the Card Investor Guy. Go turn on some other channel that's probably lobbing softballs to Brent over at PWCC right now, talking about the September premier auction. Turn the show off. This is not for you. This is not for people that want to know, oh, what's going to happen to Topps Heritage? I'm collecting the Topps Living set. Is that going to end? What about my NFTs? What about my eTops cards? I still have them in eTops. What about the Santa card that is made every year? Are they going to make the Santa card again, guys? What about my Derek Jeter redemption that is 2 years old? This show is not for you. This show is for men and women that are interested in the business side of trading cards, that are interested in understanding what's going to happen with Topps, what's going to happen with Panini, what's going to happen with Upper Deck, what is Fanatics going to do, what do they want to do, what's on their mind, why are they doing this? There's going to be a lot of people providing their opinion on this subject over the coming weeks ahead. None of them can show you a nice watch. None of them can show you they're actually followed by the guy that got the deal done, an $8 billion billionaire that follows me and Jeff Bezos, among others. Pretty much everybody he follows has a blue check mark except for me. And who has a investor channel on YouTube that has nearly 100,000 subscribers. And if you want to go and look at the videos, they're easy to find. You want to go look through the comments of the videos, they're easy to find. We are going to run down things today, and you are not going to find better information out there. Trust me. And if you're not interested in it and you're looking to just worry about your Santa card, your redemption card, and things like that, that's not what this channel is about. If I was worried about my Topps Heritage set, the guys like that don't show nice watches, period. I've got a family, I've got a kid, I'm trying to make money. And if you're interested in that, this is the show for you. And we're going to get right into things. Ryan, what I want to start things off with is there's fair amount of new collectors, but even if you're not a new collector, Topps has held both the Players Association license and the exclusive license for the last 10 or 13, 14 years. They've had an exclusive license to make logos, also the MLB properties, which is the Giants logo, the Cubs logo, the Yankees logo, the exclusive right to use those on baseball trading cards for well over a decade. I think it's been since 07, 08, somewhere in that range. I think Upper Deck went away. All the other brands had basically fallen off by then. Topps got an exclusive deal to not only the players, put players on cards, but also the logos. Those two licenses are separate. I want you to walk through that, the mechanics of that and how that works. And then we'll tie that into what Fanatics did today. And then we'll move on to, well, what does this now mean for Topps and Panini?
Okay, well, we can use the present day example and the companies involved. And we'll just use baseball, for example. Currently, if you want to make baseball cards, there's two companies that have a license that can use Major League Baseball players. You have Panini and Topps. Panini has a Players Association license, meaning what the 1,000 or so, or it's probably larger than that, maybe like 1,500 active Major League Baseball players have done, is they've pooled themselves together. Because imagine if you were a card company and you wanted to make cards, you would have to get a contract to use the name, image, and likeness of every single major league player if you wanted to put them all on a set, or at least all the ones you wanted to use. So that's super complicated. So what the Players Association license essentially is, it's like a group licensing deal. It's very essential for video games. So if you like MLB The Show, this same thing plays in. MLB The Show needs a Players Association license so that it can have all the players in the game. Okay, that's very, very important. Probably the most important thing. And then think about it from the video game aspect too. They also need a MLB properties license so that they can put the logos of the team on the players in the game. So they can put Mike Yastrzemski on the Giants and then have him in a Giants uniform. So MLB The Show has a Players Association license, and they have a league license, a properties license, and they make this video game that essentially is like real life baseball. Okay, similar thing with cards. Now you could make a video game with just a Players Association license if you could get it, if you bought it and they sold it to you, but it wouldn't have the logos of the teams. You couldn't even use Wrigley Field, for an example, because I bet that's all kind of tied into kind of one licensing deal with the teams and so forth. So it'd be hard to construct. Yes, you could have the players, but it wouldn't have the same look and feel as a game that could show the Cubs logos and the Giants logos and so forth. Same idea with cards. It's the same thing with cards. If you have a players association like a players association license like Panini, you can put the name, image likeness of current MLB players onto cards, but you can't use the logos of the team. So that's why you always see these awkward pictures of them swinging and covering up the logo on the chest, right? Or the hat's turned a certain way, or airbrush totally out, or they're in like a plain white uniform, or you see just these weird things to kind of hide the logos in certain pictures. Kind of hard to produce because you've got to really choose your photography really well. Now, to make things simpler was if you were Topps and you had that players association license, and then you also had a league license where you're essentially able to do both. You're able to have the players, and then you also have the properties license, which is essentially like a group licensing deal for the owners. There's 30 some odd owners. They would then have to make individual deals with card companies or video game makers or so on and so forth. So it serves their interest to pool all their likenesses, logos and kind of team branding into one pool, sell it to Topps, sell it to EA Sports, sell it to Sony, sell it to these people who are interested in using those logos. And it works perfectly when you're trying to pair it with the players. So what we have presently is Topps has the exclusive properties license. But think about that. If you just had the properties license, you could literally make a card that had the San Francisco Giants logo on it. And that's it. And maybe you could make a picture of Wrigley Field, or you could like take the World Series trophy or something. And that's it. You couldn't use the name and the image of the player. So these licenses almost kind of go hand in hand. So Topps, has both. Panini has one. And so now the key in licensing over the last few years is if you're looking to get the license, depending on the sport, you go after the exclusive in one or the other. You either try to get the exclusive with the league to force the players to then have to deal with you, or you get the exclusive with the players to then go to the league and say, hey, we've got the players locked up. Like if you want to make football cards, you're dealing with Panini, like kind of what Panini did a few years ago. I think they locked up the players, and then it kind of forced the league to just go to, they locked the players into an exclusive, okay, with the NFL, whereas in the MLB, it's not an exclusive. Panini got let out, and so they can make these players associated sets. Topps has an exclusive with the league, so that's why they're the only teams with logos. How that related to today, and I don't even know, I mean, essentially what Michael Rubin did. So there's essentially 2 licenses for each sport, 2 for baseball, 2 for football, and 2 for basketball. Players Association and a league for both. What Michael Rubin did is it looks like he's going to come in and buy all 6 of them. Not 1, not 2, not 3, not 4, not 5, but literally what's going to happen is Michael Rubin is going to drop his proverbial chest of money, and his company's valued at $18 billion. Topps is valued at $1 billion. Yesterday it was. Fanatics is worth 18. So he took all his money and rounded up all the licenses. That's how big today was, so big that they're literally, it's 8/19. They're going to be, the Black Thursday. They're going to be talking about this day for many years to come. It's so huge. It's so massive. One guy, one entity, one company who has a track record of doing some crazy stuff in sports licensing and basically like stiff arming all the middle guys and all the little guys out. This guy came in and basically bought the entire modern new sports card market in one shot. He has the exclusive. He gave ownership to the leagues. He blew the money out of the water that Topps offered. Topps was offering a chance to match, and they didn't even match. So I mean, it's just
10 times. I know I'm going off the top of my head, but it was at least 10 times more than any other license that the Players Association had ever signed. He basically
that includes video games and everything. Oh my God, that's crazy.
It was including everything, and it's just incredible. Like it's literally what he basically came in You know, it's almost like a house being for sale on your street for 400,000, and it probably will go maybe a little over market, 410, 415. And you came in and offered 1.5 million or something like that, or really
Well,
like
and then you
4
bought all
million.
the houses around it too.
Yeah. Well, actually what you did is you're probably going to force everybody else around you to sell to you because now you're a grand poobah or something. You know what I mean? Like, it was one of the greatest moves business wise that I have ever seen. And we will talk about that here in a little bit. Literally one of the best business moves I have ever seen. And like I just showed you, I analyze businesses for a living, basically. And it is one of the best moves I've ever seen. And I think you had a point there that I don't know if a lot of people really will recognize. He gave equity, which is stock or a stake in a company. He gave equity back to the leagues. So now just like how the league, the NFL, quote unquote, owns the NFL network, and the NBA, I think, owns NBA TV. They now the leagues, which is the leagues collectively, we're talking about billionaire owners like Michael Rubin, like Mark Cuban, like Jerry Jones, billionaire owners, and also multi-million-dollar players now have equity stake in this new company. So that puts a big, massive moat around the business of sports licensing, right? Because why, when the next offer comes up, when Michael Rubin has to, re-up this deal with the leagues, would they really be looking to go a different direction when they already own a piece of the company? And this is just how billionaires work. They take full control of everything. And if you were sitting here watching this, having $1 billion, you would want to be in full control of everything. You'd have so much ego and so much confidence that is what you would want to do. You'd want to have full and utter control of everything. And that's what the leagues want. And Michael Rubin came to the table today and handed it to him on a silver platter full of money. You want to get a billionaire's attention. And that is who these leagues are. I think people forget that the smartest and most successful men and women in the United States and around the world, for that matter, own these teams. The late Jerry Buss was a brilliant man, just an absolute brilliant man. And I don't agree politically with a lot of what Mark Cuban says, but from a business standpoint, he and I are on the same page a lot of the time. Michael Rubin, who owns the Philadelphia 76ers, you watch his career of business and the career arc and how he was so much forward thinking than anybody else. He was into e-commerce bigger than even when Amazon kind of started out. I mean, we're talking about the best of the best own NFL, NBA, NFL teams. And to impress them, and when you get in front of them, Ryan, what do you think is probably the number one way to get a billionaire's attention? Money. And he has it. He has more than Topps, Panini. He has more than the entire industry combined. Not necessarily personally himself, but everyone around him. When you're worth $8 billion, when you own a team, you have lots of rich friends. And not only that, he had the connections with the leagues to offer them equity stake into this new venture, which we'll call maybe Fanatics trading cards at the current time. We'll see how this rolls up in the future. Let's talk about what this means. Let's start with Topps company. Ryan, you want to discuss what you think this means for the Topps company?
It's a nuclear bomb today. I mean, I can only imagine if you're sitting there, and I bet most of the employees, it was kind of like PWCC. I bet it was like a no-knock notice. You had like no idea you were going to get kicked off eBay that day. I bet all the Topps employees had no idea they were going to lose the MLB license today, and essentially their job's in jeopardy. The company's life is in jeopardy. So, I mean, from Top's perspective, today's one of the worst days in company history, because your life, your 70-year history of making baseball cards is in limbo, and in some respect will never be the same, because it's been ran the same way for quite a long time. And even if they get swallowed up somehow by Fanatics, or whatever happens, or they make unlicensed baseball cards, or don't make baseball cards at all and make other products or whatever, or go some other kind of way, it's never going to be the same. So today's a catastrophic day for Topps. Business wise, you'd probably have to do one of two things. You either have to pivot really hard and fast now, and we have the stock decision coming up amazingly like next week, so you have to pivot.
Yeah. You think Michael Rubin timed this by accident? Do you think he announced this literally? I think the vote to approve the deal, so we might as well explain this now, because this is an important piece of the situation. So Topps agreed to go public through what's called a SPAC deal. Essentially, a company went public and raised money. So they said, hey, here's a ticker on the stock exchange. They used to be called blank check companies. And I think that's a better way to understand it. I think more people are going to understand it in that sense. So a company says, hey, we're going to start a business. We don't know what we're going to do. We don't know what we want to buy. We don't know what business we want to be in, but we want to raise some money right now and then go out shopping for a business. And that's basically what a SPAC is. That's basically what a blank check company is. And so a couple big investors with some connections and things like that start one of these, and they raise some money. They raise a couple $100 million. They get their friends and some other investors to pour money basically into a bank account. That's really all it is. It's just into a bank account. And then they start going out shopping for deals. And what this company did is that they decided to go out and make an offer for Topps, the company. And Topps is actually two separate companies. There's the baseball card division and all the other licensed products. They also have gift cards, which is kind of an interesting business as well. And they also have candy. So it's actually kind of three, and they probably have some other smaller businesses in there as well. And some people might even separate Topps Digital, NFTs, those types of things. So there's several different businesses in there. Most of it revolves around the Topps IP of 70 years of making baseball cards outside the candy. That revolves around, obviously, candy IP and things like that. And in the past, Topps has actually tried to separate the two. At the current time, a lot of people think Michael Eisner owns Topps. His group, I believe, owns between 20 and 30%, and it might even be less than that at this point. The people that actually own Topps and actually make the decisions and control the company is a company called Madison Dearborn Partners. And that is a private equity firm, I believe, based in Chicago. And Madison Dearborn Partners, basically what a private equity firm likes to do is they do the same thing. They're basically like a blank check company. They get a bunch of money from school districts or big rich people, and they raise a bunch of money, and then they go out and buy companies. And they did the same thing back in, I think it was 2007 or 2008 with Topps. They bought Topps back there. They got, if you go and look at the financials of the deal, I think they actually got a pretty good deal. Now, what was unfortunate is they bought it in 2007, and immediately in 2008, we all know what happened. The stock market tanked, the financial crisis tanked. And so they actually grossly overpaid. At the time they got Topps, I think it was actually a pretty darn good deal, but then you had the financial crisis. So it's just like buying a house in 2007. Yes, it'll eventually come back to value, and most of them have, but it was a bad deal after in hindsight with the financial crisis. Normally PE companies like Madison Dearborn Partners, what do they like to do? They like to buy these companies, keep them for 2 or 3 years, and then they flip them, because what they do is create little funds that create little dividends and income streams, but they're not in the business of holding companies. Okay. They brought along Michael Eisner because he probably brought some value as well. They threw him 20% of the company. But Michael Eisner is not really a big deal at Topps, honestly. He might be to the employees. He might be to the company to a certain degree. He certainly was going to be far more involved in the new company if and when that is consummated. But Madison Dearborn Partners is the company that is financially tied to Topps to a significant degree. And so they wanted to sell. And so this new blank check company, which will use the ticker symbol MUDS, I think it's Murdoch Capital, decided to say, hey, Madison Dearborn Partners, you want to sell Topps? I want to buy. And they agreed on a price. And I think the valuation for Topps was somewhere in that $1.2 billion range. And I think the company is going to have $700 or $800 million worth of sales, all in, all included. And so that's about we'll just call it 1.5 times sales, which I think is a little rich, but that was the deal. And the way these blank check companies work is once the deal is announced, that usually gets the retail investor interested in the SPAC. Before then, it's just blank check money. Nobody really cares except for really insiders. But after the deal was announced, trust me, there's people watching this that ran out. They probably don't own a single share of Apple. They don't own a single share of Amazon. They don't own a single share of NVIDIA. They don't own Facebook. They don't own any blue chip stock. But what did they do? They ran out and bought MUDS stock because it, quote unquote, now was going to own Topps. And the stock ran up, went from $10 all the way, I think, up to about $18. And the entire time, anybody asked me in my opinion on it, I was like, it's a ripoff. This company's worth one-time sales max because of the situation that we saw today. Yes, Topps have 70 years of IP in terms of baseball cards. Yes, they have a lot of you fanboys out there that drool every time they come out with a product and you go and hit refresh on their website for an NFT or something like that. But they have absolutely nothing. If someone like Michael Rubin walked in with a 10-inch schlong and Topps has a 4-inch schlong, think about if that's a girl standing there on the other side, who she's going to choose. Not going to pick a side, but I think you can imagine which way most females would go. And so Michael Rubin, obviously a little more attractive, and obviously took the greatest asset away from Topps. And how does this relate to what we were just talking about? Well, Topps's deal is not final. I think a lot of people think Topps is a public company. The deal's over. No, it's not. In fact, next week, I believe on Monday or sometime next week, what happens is if you own shares of MUDS, you get to vote yes or no on the Topps acquisition. You get to vote yes or no. And if enough shareholders vote no, guess what? It's just like voting for president. It's just like voting for anything, yays or nays. If most people say nay, well, guess what? The deal's not going to go through. And so don't you think the timing of this announcement is a little convenient? Because now, instead of being able to go public next week, which would get Madison Dearborn Partners off the hook, which would give Topps a little bit of access to the capital markets, but trust me, the stock was just going to tank. All of a sudden, that deal looks very much in doubt because most sophisticated investors I know are thinking on the same lines as us. They know who Michael Rubin is. They follow Jeff Bezos. They understand the market. Now, yes, the average card fondler that went out on his Robinhood account and bought 4 shares of MUDS before he bought any blue chip stock, any FANG stock, Microsoft, Tesla even, before he bought any stock that's worth hundreds of billions, even trillions of dollars, he bought 4 stocks of MUDS. This idiot doesn't know anything about this. But the guys that have complete control of this are now probably going to sit back and think, wait a second. Do we really want to go public and then start printing numbers that go down and down and down and down over the next couple of years because all of a sudden somebody else has the license, or have that always be a black cloud hanging over the stock? That why would I bid up Topps stock if they're about to lose their number one business model in 2 to 3 years to a billionaire? Not only a billionaire in Michael Rubin, but also a team owner, which he is. And then he also gave equity stakes to his other buddies that own the teams. So all of a sudden, Topps want to go head to head with somebody with more money than them, more connections, not only inside the leagues, but the athletes as well. Fanatics probably owns more exclusive autograph deals than Topps does themselves. So do they really want to go head to head to that? And that's what investors are going to have to think about over the next 2 or 3 days that own shares of MUDs is you get a vote. And some people, and honestly, the little guy that owns 4 shares, it's not going to matter what he votes. He could vote yes or no. It's not going to swing the vote there. And there's probably ways to figure this out. I haven't looked in this stock enough because it's just trash. It's a trash stock. Even if what happened today didn't happen and Topps re-up for another 10 years with baseball, it's still a trash stock at a 1.5 times sales valuation. And I don't need to get into why. It's just a garbage stock. And the market's supporting that because it's gone from 18 down to now it's below $10, which is really negative value because the stock goes public at $10, at $10.10, I think, because it's cash in the bank.
Yeah.
And now it's trading for less than what the cash is in the bank. So it should tell you what investors are thinking in the market about this deal. That if the deal goes through, this is when MUD stock is trading under $10. And I think the last time I haven't looked in the last few hours, but it was trading at $9.88. That is under the amount of cash that they've raised. That is telling you that if the deal does go through, the market is telling you that it's an absolute stone cold ripoff, that it's not worth the money. And so my guess, and I don't know, look, I spend my time investing in blue chip companies. I don't worry about SPACs and little penny stocks, $10 stocks. It's not worth it. It's not worth your time. That's not how you're going to build wealth. No big successful investor, rich guy has gotten rich investing in companies nobody knows. It's always the guys that invested in like the big companies. So that's what I focus on. This deal could still go through. This company still could go public, I guess. It's possible. But it would be an absolute complete disaster if they did. And so the MUDs deal is we're going to get a decision on that sometime next week and get an indication on how other investors feel about this. And if that deal is rejected, that reverts the company back to MDP, Madison Dearborn Partners, and back to the current structure. And like I said, I can't emphasize this enough. Madison Dearborn Partners did not buy Topps in 2007 to hold it all the way to 2021 now?
21.
They do not. In fact, you can go to their website, and on their website, they'll tell you, our goal is to buy and sell companies in a 4 or 5 year time frame. That's it. They buy the company, they take the money out, they borrow money from a bank at a low interest rate, they fire a bunch of high-end employees, they pay everybody a tiny amount of money, and that's what they do. That's PE for you. That's private equity. That's what they do. They're not in the business of creating great brands and elevating it to a different level and then burning through a bunch of cash. No, they want to suck the cash out of the business. And then in 4 or 5 years, sell it for more than what they paid. And it's just pure profit at that point. They pulled cash out and they made a profit when they sold it. That's PE business model. There's other business models out there, including the blank check company, that was probably much more interested in building up Topps brand, building those things up. But it looks like that deal is in jeopardy. And it is no coincidence, absolutely no coincidence, that the deal with Fanatics for the 2 exclusive licenses that Topps holds in the baseball market was announced today. What do you got more thoughts on the future for Topps? And we're talking about potentially, it looks like to me, and you might have explained this, that the Players Association deal, which allows you to put players on the cards, that is a license that both Topps and Panini holds. That looks like it's going to an exclusive license with Fanatics in 2023.
23.
Correct on that? So
2023.
we're talking not even 2 years from now. Okay. We're talking like a year and a half. And keep in mind that products are planned out way in advance. I don't know what the lead time, I can imagine with the virus, the lead times have actually stretched even farther. Okay. They're probably planning products out even farther in advance because of all the difficulties. Okay. But I would say in a more normal distribution and kind of manufacturing environment, they're probably 6 to 12 months, at least 6 months. Okay. Because we're already seeing sell sheets for 2021, or excuse me, 2022 Heritage. We've already seen what Series 1 is going to look like in January. We're already seeing what I think Heritage has gone pre-sale for 2022. We might have seen Ginter and some other ones. Okay. And so these companies have to plan these things out in a long time. And if Rubin gets the Players Association license exclusive in 2023, well, guess what that's going to mean? Topps and Panini are going to start winding down their plans for new sets this time next year. Probably tomorrow, but really in reality, 6 to 12 months later, they're going to start winding down that business and not really caring about that business. And so we're a year away potentially from baseball cards manufactured in the way that they are now completely being over.
That's where we're at. And we have this awkward thing where the Fanatics is getting the PA exclusive in 2023, but Topps owns the properties exclusive through 2025. So you could have a scenario where, let's say Topps hangs on to the business and them and Fanatics never get together. And so you could have Fanatics make, I guess, some they're owned by the league, so I don't want to call it unlicensed, but essentially without logos, because Topps still owns that license. And you could have that for 2 years potentially if the dates work out the way they do and Topps and Fanatics don't get together. So that's the one weird timing issue with the deal, is that the dates actually don't line up. And we'd actually have to look at the NBA and the NFL deals too when those get announced, how the timing of that works out. So there could be a period where you either don't get cards at all, like maybe Fanatics doesn't make cards at all, which would be incredible to think about. And because they have the PA exclusive, though, actually Topps they can't make cards with baseball players on them starting in 2023. So you're right. Actually, last year, I guess, is the last year for Topps sets. And again, unless some other deal between, and I guess we can discuss that, some other between them and Topps works out. I mean, and I was thinking about this today. Could you imagine if you're Topps and you lost this deal, and presuming you don't have some agreement with Fanatics already worked out, and Eisner and Rubin haven't, done some lines and had some strippers in front of them and worked out a deal. You now have to go to Rubin, who stole your 70-year-old wife basically from you.
Maybe
can you imagine that?
Daughter, your 70-year-old wife, you might have wanted to get rid of. We're talking about like your 18-year-old daughter who you had a bright future for. All of a sudden, the guy comes
at her peak,
and takes your daughter and your house and your car and all your money. That's basically what happened.
So that's really tough for Topps. If the deal worked out the way it did, they had an opportunity to match. They never negotiated with Fanatics. And they don't have something worked out already. Just absolutely horrible, because now you have to either walk away from baseball after 70 years and now make this F1 stuff in soccer. Like, that could be seasonal and in and of itself, and isn't a big bit. Let's face it. It's not the same as making baseball cards. It's not the same business. When they go public and release the numbers, you're going to see that clear as day. Like if they break it out by sport category, you're going to be blown away by what baseball is compared to freaking soccer and F1. Like, give me a break.
Oh, it's a tiny fraction.
The growth numbers, I'm sure are there, but the hobby's been growing. The baseball numbers, I'm sure, has grown the last many numbers of years. Look at what Michael Rubin paid. So apparently there's value there. With Topps, they're just in this horrible spot, because now you have this thing next Wednesday with the vote. So you may get your lifeline to sell the company might be gone. And now your one obvious buyer for the company stole, like you said, stole your girlfriend, stole your bank account, stole your house. and has more money than you. So, and doesn't really need you. Doesn't really need you. Doesn't need anybody. He's got 18 billion. His company's worth $18 billion. He doesn't need Panini. Doesn't need Upper Deck. Doesn't need nobody. Same thing happened in 09. Oh, nobody's going to buy basketball cards. Now all you guys care about is Prism basketball and Optic.
Yeah.
So Fanatics is looking at this not in a 5-year horizon, 10 years. He's looking at this decades forward. So he'll take a 10-year hit while you guys get used to Fanatics, Chromanium basketball and baseball and football and selling cards online and NFTs. And it's done a totally different way. And Blowout goes out of business and all your favorite group breakers go out of business and the whole model has changed. He'll take you guys putting up with that and not liking it for 5 or 10 years because he's thinking way past you guys. He's thinking decades in the future. So he doesn't need any of these companies. Now, whether or not they become affordable and they become in the range and they become a smart purchase for him, he certainly is probably, I'm sure, going to look into it and already is, but he doesn't need these guys. This same thing has happened in other sports, and you guys have totally forgotten about Topps Chrome Baseball and, oh, what about Exquisite and this and all the Upper Deck brands? Nobody cares about those anymore.
Yeah.
Nobody.
Here's the deal, is that Topps, Fanatics and Michael Rubin, you are absolutely 100% correct. He doesn't need Topps. He doesn't need Topps. Who cares? He doesn't need Panini. He doesn't need any of these guys. But who needs to sell? And that is why we went over this. And that is why it is a chain of events that the new influencer that's 13 months into this can explain this to you. And the average fondler collector that I've been debating here on Twitter, they don't understand this. Madison Dearborn Partners owns Topps, and they have to sell it. They are 10 years over when they wanted to sell it. 10 years. They wanted to hold Topps for like 3 or 4 years and then let it go, sell it. That's what they wanted to do. We are now 14 years later. They still own it. They have to get rid of this company. And on top of that, now their number one business model, and I don't want to go too deep into the weeds here, but Topps has lots and lots of debt on their company. We're talking about billions. We're not talking about a couple million. We're talking about billions of dollars worth of debt on the company. Part of that was going to get wiped out when they went public. Okay, they're going to pay. Some of the shareholder money comes in. Some of it goes to MDP, Michael Eisner. Some of it goes to paying off debt. Okay, that's why one of the reasons why going public made a lot of sense. You get a bunch of foolish investors to give you money. Well, oh, we get to pay off this bank debt that, trust me, is not rated grade A1. So who actually owns Topps? I keep saying MDP owns Topps. Michael Eisner owns a piece of Topps. No, the banks, the debt holders own Topps. Just like your house. You quote unquote own your house. No, you don't. The bank probably owns it the bank owns it if you have a mortgage. Stop making your payments on your house when the bank has a mortgage for you. And guess what? You're gone. And if you pay property taxes, this is when a lot of people don't connect the dots on. If you have property taxes like you do here in the state of California, go ahead and pay off your mortgage, but stop paying your property taxes. Who actually owns your house? Not you. The state does. So when somebody talks about buying a house out here in California, they ain't buying shit.
You're leasing.
You are leasing it from first the bank, and then if you happen to pay that off, now you're leasing it from the state of California. And the same thing is true with Madison Dearborn Partners. Until they pay off every penny of that debt, they do not own it. They do not have full control. And inside debt, there is something called covenants, which are requirements in order to not be in default. You can go ahead and make your payments on the debt. The way corporate debt works is there are covenants that the company requires. And I, believe it or not, folks, I'm probably the only person in the industry that has actually read through the covenants of Topps's debt. And it requires them to maintain ratios of sales to debt. So they have to have a certain amount of sales versus how much debt they have. And if they fall out of favor with those covenants, doesn't necessarily mean default. It doesn't necessarily mean the bank will come to them and say, we own the company, you guys are out of here. Probably not. But it absolutely means that the debt holders will now come to MDP and come to Michael Eisner and say, hey, wait a second, guys, you lost that baseball license. You had $750 million in sales last year. Now old Michael Rubin owns the license and your sales went all the way down to 400 million and you owe us 20 billion. And it's making us a little concerned. It's just like if you bought a $4 million house because you were making $400,000 a year. And then all of a sudden you lost your job. And then you got a job at McDonald's and you started making $25 an hour. And the bank finds out. You think they'd be a little concerned? Probably so. And that is what is going to happen with Topps. Because I've heard this speculation, oh, they'll just make F1 and soccer. They'll just make this and they'll just make that. You really think so? You really think they want to do that? When the debt is over the business, and not only that, Madison Dearborn Partners has to sell. And so here's the deal, guys. So Madison Dearborn Partners wants to sell Topps. Now they're on the open market. We're going to assume that whether or not the public deal goes through or not, it's irrelevant. But so Topps is going to be for sale. Even if it's a public company, it's for sale. If it's a public company, the shares are for sales and the share will judge the value of the business. And so it's really, if Topps goes public next week and that deal is consummated, I don't know if they absolutely go public on the day of the vote or shortly after there. I'm sure there's some lead time in between there. But let's assume they go public at $9 a share, $10 a share, and all of a sudden everybody realizes their business is worth it and it goes down to $1, $2 a share. That wasn't worth it. It was great for MDP, but it'll put Topps in a very, very, very difficult situation where they'll have to raise money or sell the company again. So here's what I want you guys to think about out there. You're Madison Dearborn Partners. You own Topps, but at the same time, you owe the bank billions of dollars that you don't have and that Topps doesn't have. And it sure as hell Michael Eisner doesn't have. And Michael Rubin just came in with Fanatics and he bought your house, he bought your car, he bought your wife, he bought your daughter, and he went packing out of town. And not only that, everybody knows who Michael Rubin is. And now all of a sudden, Topps is for sale. Can anyone out there, legitimately out there right now watching this, and depending on your answer on this, should determine whether or not you should have a financial advisor or you're capable of making financial decisions on your own? Who in the world would want to buy Topps with no ability to make baseball cards and compete not only against a billionaire, but all his billionaire friends that own the leagues and the company that makes the cards? So you literally would buy a business that is absolutely going to be in decline, that has billions and billions of dollars worth of debt that you'd have to pay off or refinance. And not only that, your number one revenue maker is now gone, and your competition has the ability to squash you like a little bug. Who would want to get into that business? Who would want to buy Topps when they don't have a baseball license? They have multi-billions of dollars worth of debt. They have to sell. It's not that Madison Dearborn Partners can just hold on and say, we can take a loss on this one. We can just default on this one. They can't really do that. We're talking about billions of dollars worth of debt. They can't default on that. That would ruin their relationship with other banks that they have to deal with. They can't default. Topps has to sell. And can you find a buyer out there that is crazy enough to want to bid for it? Not only bid on it, but outbid Michael Rubin. So you got to bid on Topps and understand that the number one business model is gone. Understand that you got a mountain of debt that you got to pay back to. But on top of that, you got to outbid Michael Rubin, who you know will be in the room. You don't think he's not going to be in the room? You're crazy. If you don't think he is going to have Topps come negotiate with him, you're absolutely insane. Because here's the deal. And I'm going to explain this in terms that the average hobby dude out there is going to understand. National Treasures basketball came out. And forgive me, I don't follow the prices of those things. But let's just assume National Treasures box comes out and it's $15,000 on Blowout cards. And you can list it on eBay and get $15,000 for your National Treasures box of cards. And somebody comes to you and offers you a box for $8,000, or let's say even $5,000. Would you buy it? Would you buy the box of National Treasures? Absolutely, you would. And that could be the situation that Michael Rubin ends up in. Is that there's no other buyer for Topps. There's nobody that wants to take them on for competition. And Topps is like a National Treasures box. In the open market, they're worth $1.5 billion. In the open market, they're worth the $10,000, $15,000 that Blowout is asking for their box. But guess what? Michael Rubin is going to be able to buy it for a fraction of the price. Because there's nobody going to want to bid against him. And if they do bid, there's going to be all this other layers to the business that they're not going to want to deal with. And they're not going to want to go up to a $1.5 billion valuation. It'll be far less. So next week, it was basically a certainty that Topps was going to go public at a $1.5 billion valuation. I might be off by a couple hundred million, but 1.5 is a good round number. Topps was going to go public at a $1.5 billion valuation next week. And now Michael Rubin holds the license, and Topps's ability to go public, at least from what the market is saying, is severely in doubt. And so now Michael Rubin is going to have the opportunity to buy Topps, which on the open market was worth $1.5 billion. I'm not going to speculate what he could buy it for or what MDP would actually sell it to him for, but it's probably not going to be $1.5 billion. And Michael Rubin is going to be able to buy Topps, let's just say $700 million. And the very next day, Michael Rubin is going to buy Topps. Let's just say
be worth 1.5 again
for $750 million. The very next day, how much is Topps worth, Ryan?
1.5
and
or
here's
more.
The other thing. Topps's business and the sports card business has never been hotter. The sports card business has never been hotter. Think about it just like you do with real estate. Real estate never been hotter right now. Imagine your neighbor having $1 million house and coming to you and saying, I'll sell it to you for $500,000. And I'm dead serious about it. That's basically what could potentially happen to Michael Rubin in the hottest trading card market ever. He might be able to buy one of these companies at a severe discount just because he bought. Now, yes, okay, he had to pay up for the license. He had to pay up for that. He had to pay up big time, more than anybody ever has. But he might get the, people are saying, oh, he paid 10x for the license. He spent all this money. Well, no, let's factor in what he could potentially save if he buys Topps, if he buys an Upper Deck, if he buys Panini. How much money is he going to save on that end? This is the way billionaires think. Little third graders think, oh, he overpaid for the license and he's going to have trouble making the cards and it's a tough business. And, oh, they make candy and F1 and I don't know if he's going to want to do all that. No, what he's thinking about is I could put a couple billion in my friends' pockets. We could start a new venture, get an ownership structure together. And then if one of these card companies wants to come to sell to us for pennies on the dollar that they're actually worth with the license, well, yeah, we'll buy it. And we'll save ourselves hundreds of millions of dollars. Whereas he could have done the reverse. The amateur, the blank check company, trust me, these blank check companies, just because they have a ticker on the stock exchange, these are amateurs. These are not your Michael Rubins. These are not your NFL owners and stuff like that. These are amateurs trying to make a quick buck. That's all they're really trying to do with a SPAC deal. It's some guys that want to throw some money in, get some hype, buy a company like stock, and make some money. They're amateurs. Michael Rubin might have schooled these guys and taught them a lesson that instead of investing the money in Topps, you really should have just bought the licenses. You should have gone to the leagues and spent up with the leagues. And then all of a sudden you could have bought Topps for nothing. Because let's not forget, how many card companies, Ryan, have gone bankrupt? ProSet, Press Pass, Donruss, Leaf, Pacific, Crown Royale, Sports Picks, For Sport. Almost, I would say almost every card company has gone bankrupt except for Topps. And Panini is just a roll-up of a lot of bankrupt companies. Donruss, Score, Crown Royale. Those were all bankrupt companies. Those of you that are back new in the hobby, those companies went bankrupt. And Topps just bought, in this case, Panini just bought the IP for that. And so it's in the history of trading cards, it's actually uncommon not to go bankrupt. It's actually common for trading cards to go bankrupt. And it is because of this reason with the licenses. Once you don't hold the license, your business model is pretty much over. We saw that with Fleer. They screwed up their license and they were gone. ProSet, gone. On and on and on. We've seen that if you don't hold the license, Upper Deck to a certain degree, they didn't necessarily go bankrupt, but boy, they had some financial troubles there when they lost the MLB license, when they lost the NFL license, when they lost the NBA license. They've done a beautiful job, and give credit to, I would say, without knowing these people personally, but just from afar analyzing things, the people over at Upper Deck have just done a brilliant job managing that business. And the founder, Richard McWilliam, died. I mean, there's just a lot there that they had to deal with, and they've navigated that ship about as well as I think anybody possibly could. And I'm not here trying to slap ass on any of these companies, but it was just an absolute stone cold brilliant move, because the baseball card market could not be hotter than it is today. And so, yeah, you're going to have to pay up for an MLB PA and an MLB properties license. Of course, the NFL is going to charge more for that every single year. Look at the TV contracts. Sports get more popular every single year. And the Mark Cubans and the Jerry Jones of the world are not stupid. They're not looking to give somebody a break. They're not looking to give somebody something on sale. They're looking to get them and their buddies rich. And so Michael Rubin came to the table basically as a buddy of theirs, because he owns a team and he's in that fraternity and he's a billionaire. He not only gave them a fat wad of cash, which he's probably borrowing at 2%. He didn't give him a cash out of his bank. Believe that. He's borrowing this money from a bank for nothing. He not only gave him a wad of cash, but he gave him equity stake in the new company. And all these guys know that Topps has to sell. Topps has to sell. Madison Dearborn Partners has to sell. And if it goes public with MUDs next week, let's just say that a vote's approved. Guess what's going to happen to the stock? Maybe not overnight, maybe not over the next month, but over a few years, it's going to go down. There's no reason for a stock like that to go up. Their revenues are going to go down. All the analysts are going to say, nope, you lost your baseball license. And they're going to look at the covenants of the debt as well and say, look, some of that is still in place. You're screwed. Nobody's going to bid up that stock. And so what's going to happen? Over time, the stock's going to go down and down and down. And you either become a penny stock or you go private again. And how do you go private? You call up Michael Rubin and you sell for a fire sale price. Certainly not 1.5 billion or 1.5 times sales.
So pretty well established that we're talking about Topps. Panini's basically in the same spot. Now, Panini's in a position where they can pack up and basically leave the country and go make soccer stickers and essentially, have what they had before 2009. They're in a little different spot because, Topps has this candy business, but that's not as big a business as every 4 years this World Cup comes out and people go nuts making these soccer stickers. I mean, that's a $1 billion business potentially, certainly into the hundreds of millions of what they sell soccer stickers. So they literally could pack up, say, hey, we had a nice little whatever it is, 10, 11-year run. We created some cool brands. Maybe you sell those off on the cheap. Maybe you get in there before Topps and you sell the Panini scrap and then you pick up and you go home. So Panini's literally in the same spot as Topps. Anything you're saying about Topps, they're really in a tough spot, these card companies. Upper Deck potentially is not in a horrible spot because they haven't appeared to have lost anything yet. But I guess the time's ticking when they can make Rubin can make a similar deal with the NHL, force Upper Deck out. Now Upper Deck is left with Jordan and the and the exclusive that's there, which certainly had value and it certainly probably helped prop up the company for quite a long time. Just that relationship alone is worth quite a bit of money per year. So okay, these card companies are screwed, and the nature of them, even if they sell to Rubin, is going to change significantly. What I want to though get into is there's a lot of people listening to this, group breakers, people who have started hobby shops and rely on a case of Panini every they get a case of National Treasures at cost because they open a store. With baseball, the way it works is that if you commit to buy a case of baseball at cost, every product, big league to triple threads, and then you also got to pick up certain soccer products, certain Star Wars, and some of the other stuff Topps makes, you can get a direct account with him. Again, if you have a store and you got to grease, what's his name, O'Neill, over there at Topps, you got to throw him probably a couple of racks or whatever, throw him a stripper or something. So talk about, we need to really talk about the card shop owner and the group breaker who really rely on new products. Not the shop owner who's flipping singles and is like a hustler and
but sells older wax
older wax and is really not
big on new wax.
Yeah, not huge on new wax.
Right.
Maybe he
could have been in stock in the past.
Sure. He's moved away from that in the last couple of years, potentially because it's so hard to get product. But we have a ton of people out there that they basically live and breathe this new stuff. Mm-hmm. And they bend over backwards basically to acquire it, typically from a distributor or through a direct account. And I've seen the guys at the Topps conference in Phoenix. They're literally slurping these Topps guys nuts to get a direct account.
As they should.
And we've seen the group breakers. Basically, all the group breakers talk about is the allocation they're able to get from distributors. The only thing they talk about is, how many National Treasure cases did you order and how many did you get? How many did you order? How many did you get? How many did you get from Peach State? How many did Gold River give you? How many GTS give you? How many Southern Hobby give you? Blah, 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 and they don't want. Right. And so how do you think that model well, you can go up to the distributor. How does that model now change? Let's just assume that Rubin comes in. He's got $18 billion valuation on Fanatics. Fanatics is known as a retail only place. And they obviously run the team stores, but then those are essentially like kind of franchisees and kind of corporate run stores. There's not really like mom and pop sports shops where you can go in and get your Buster Posey jersey and get your hats and those don't really exist anymore to really a high degree. Certainly out here in California, you never see those. It's a Lids, it's Foot Locker, it's these team stores, there's like a Raider image kind of thing. Again, it's these very big, expensive corporate, everything in there is full price. And that's kind of what I see Fanatics. So how does that impact these guys who have relied on little slap ass deals, Tom Fish of Blowout Cards, DA Car World, Steel City, who get exclusive deals essentially with these card companies for not only new product, but closeout specials.
Yep.
We have card stores across the country who rely on getting kind of this homie hookup at cost. They get cases at cost and they're able to kind of off these to kind of keep the lights on to some degree. group breakers whose whole business is new products. So unless you're one of
Yeah.
these new group breakers who are botting stuff on Target or, standing outside Target and breaking retail, which is a valuable thing, but there's big time group breakers who have big money into this, who are now, their distributor account may not exist in a year or two. Or shoot, if Rubin buys Topps next week and rolls it all into one thing, that could literally go to waste very soon. First of all, do you think Rubin is going to change the way cards are sold and I'm not talking about these stupid packs you're buying at 99 cents. Again, this is higher level conversation. I'm talking from a distribution level, from the GTS, Southern Hobbies, Blowout, Fish, these big time group breakers. Is that going to change? How is that going to change? And what are your thoughts there for the breaker and the shop owner?
It has to change, because he just paid 10 times more than anybody else. How is he going to make that money back? Because he's not just going to rely on putting out a good product, coming up with some good sets and some good marketing. No, he's going to do it by squeezing out the people in the supply chain that add absolutely no value to him. And so the way you immediately do that is by squeezing out the middle man. You basically become the man yourself. And for those of you that don't know, Michael Rubin started his journey in the e-commerce business back in the 90s, starting GSI Commerce, and he partnered with companies like Toys R Us and many other corporate clients to handle their websites and their e-commerce. In fact, some people in the e-commerce business, which I listen to podcasts to and listen to experts and been to conferences of, some people actually view Michael Rubin as a bigger pioneer. Maybe not bigger is not a good word, but a pioneer in the industry, right along with like a Jeff Bezos of Amazon. Like, I've heard experts in e-commerce mention both of those people in the same sentence, that Michael Rubin is right up there in terms of e-commerce success and longevity as Jeff Bezos, the former CEO of Amazon. And so I highly doubt that Michael Rubin is going to want to all of a sudden get into a business where he's not selling everything directly on his own website. That is exactly what they do at Fanatics. When he bought the company Fans Edge, that's exactly what they do there. It's basically just a different domain name, same product. He is going to roll that all up into one. Now, I think he does. There probably is some opportunities to do some wholesale stuff with some of the autograph stuff. I'm assuming when a Drew Brees comes in, or a Luka comes in to sign, or any of these guys comes in to sign, some of that is going retail. I've seen some of that in resale channels as well. I've seen Fanatics authenticated stuff in resale channels, but that is all going to go through Fanatics. You're not going to go through GTS. You're not going to go through Southern Hobby. You're not going to go through somebody else, because Michael Rubin doesn't need you. He already knows how this business works. And so you are going to have to go directly to Fanatics. And to bring up your point and to emphasize it a little bit, the group breaker that's getting a 20 box allocation or a 20 case allocation, or the guy that has a Topps Direct account and he's had that for a while and he gets a case or two of every single product, which certainly can be, at the very least, pay your rent, be a mega profit source for you, at least during when things are in season. And certainly if there's a really super hot rookie. And certainly if you have that relationship with Panini, it's probably even a better relationship, because you not only get baseball like you do with Topps, although F1 and soccer and all this other properties have absolutely taken off, but Panini, you get the NFL and the NBA, which is the NBA is probably the most lucrative contract to have with a Southern Hobby, with a GTS, with Panini directly. And so that is all going to go away, period. End of story. If anybody out there thinks that Michael Rubin is going to call up Southern Hobby or call up GTS or call individual card store, and I'm talking about not Michael Rubin personally, but obviously anybody out that he's having run this business, Is he really going to go to all the individual card shops and set that up? Is he really going to go to all the 3 or 4 distributors and give them margin? It doesn't make any sense. That's not what he does with the jerseys. That's not what he does with the t-shirts. That's not what he did at GI Commerce. That's simply not in his MO. And in my, and to just be completely truthful with all of you guys, you don't get to the level to buy an NBA team making a bunch of other people rich below you in the supply chain. You get rich by owning the whole kit and caboodle. Look at Jeff Bezos. He owns everything. He owns the e-commerce, the cloud computing software, and now he owns the distribution, the Amazon vans that go out there. That is how you vertically integrate a business, okay? You can think about Apple, the way they do it with software in their phones. You can think about Facebook, the way they do it with their social medias and the ads. The biggest business in the world and the richest people in the world vertically integrate a business, whereas Topps and those companies were, I don't know if this is the proper term, but more horizontally integrated. You had Panini and Topps in the middle, but then right beside them was the distributor and maybe even like a Blowout Cards or something like that. And then beside them, you had like Group Breakers. They probably were pushing a lot of volume. And you could throw Target and Walmart in the Excel marketing guy that distributed that product to Target and Walmart. And then on the outside, you probably had little shop owners. And then on the outside of that, quite frankly, you have guys like me that are out there with a wholesale license, and I get 1 or 2 boxes. It's not my main revenue model, but if I can get a box or 2, like I got a box, you might be able to see it over my shoulder. I got 2 boxes of F1 Chrome, and F1 Sapphire came from Topps directly, but I got 2 boxes of F1 Chrome over there for $48. Those are $500 boxes. So I paid $100 for $1,000 worth of boxes. Michael Rubin is not going to allow me to do that anymore. He's going to want to get the $1,000 for the box. Full retail. And we've actually seen this with Topps and Panini to a certain degree, but because that good old boy horizontal integration was in place, we didn't see them. I mean, they've, I don't want to say aggressively, but something like First Off the Line is an example of that. Okay. Where they come out with first off the line and they sell direct. Topps the same way, but they still left a lot of meat on the bone. Because that's why the bots are all over First Off the Line and mega, even $25 mega boxes. Like people are, and that's why Topps and Walmart had to stop selling cards, is because people were fighting over this at the price they were selling at. And I made the point, it was funny. I made the point on Twitter to one of the guys that works at Panini. And I said, why don't you guys raise prices? Like, why don't you guys raise the price? Maybe that'll stop these guys from running in there because they can make $50 a box instantly. Well, the next day, Panini announced that they were raising the price. I don't think it had anything to do with me, but I just thought it was a funny coincidence that I mentioned to the guy at Panini, well, wait, why don't you guys raise the price of this stuff? Okay. Because it's obviously being demanded at a higher price. So it never made sense to me that they sold $30 mega boxes for 30 that were worth 60 on the open market. Doesn't make sense to me that you sell me F1 Chrome for $48 a box when it's worth 500. Like, that doesn't make any sense. The only scenario that makes sense is a good old boys network where Topps is in the middle and Panini is there, and they're getting their ass slapped by Blowout and Tom Fish and maybe the DA guy. And then they're getting their ass slapped by the GTS guy and the Southern Hobby guy. And because you don't have aggressive enough people that run these companies, we've already talked about the ownership structure at Topps. The ownership at Panini is just as floozy. These guys aren't Michael Rubins. These guys aren't NBA owners. An NBA owner is going to look at that and say, wait a second. Why are you selling a $48 box to some guy that records investor videos and makes money selling supplies? Why are we selling him a box for $48? And then why do we ship a ton of this products to a group breaker who we know will instantly 5x his money, 10x his money overnight on this is our product. We paid the money to make this product. We'll sell it direct. And that's the route I think he'll go. And we're talking about traditional unopened product, open the pack, those types of things. I personally think that's going to completely change. The days of going to a shop and chit-chatting with the owner and buying a $7 pack and opening it, those days are basically over. Okay. Tops and Walmart kind of ended those days as well. They didn't want that traffic, wasn't worth anything to them either. That was more of a headache for them. That foot traffic wasn't worth it for them. It used to be you could come in and buy some cat food and then you'd pick up a pack of cards. Now it's you wait outside and you look like you're homeless and you camp outside and then you come in, get the box and you run outside to snap it on your Instagram
Black
and
Friday,
to snap
yeah.
it onto eBay. That traffic's worth nothing to Target. Nothing.
Let's go to somebody like DA, Blowout, and Steel City, who essentially act as the Fanatics for the sports card industry anyways. Their sales, I believe, are more tied to new product, new or older product, also tied to the relationship. I don't think people realize this. The relationship they have with the companies is very cozy. I mean, you would see sometimes, quote, online exclusive orders. And you could see me do air quotes if you're watching this on YouTube. If you're watching this on the podcast, you need to switch over to Sports Card Radio YouTube. Start watching us on YouTube. But Blowout, Steel City, and DA Cardwell have a very cozy relationship with the Panini and Topps. I mean, it is cozy. When you see Fish talking to these, it's cozy. And you know something's going on there. And they'll be an online exclusive, but DA, Steel City, and Blowout all have it like the day it comes out. So they ain't sitting there, refreshing
off the line as well.
Right. They've already worked out a deal where they get a certain percentage. Or in the past, this is going back a long time ago, when pretty much every product would go on essentially like a closeout. Like they'd have some product left and they couldn't sell it and they were damn near giving it away. Well, Blowout, DA, and Steel City would get this stuff at homie hookup price and they would get the first crack at it. And hobby shops would always complain about this for decades. This is before products got hot and you can't get anything now. And here's where we are. We got a billionaire who came in the room and just bought all 6 licenses. But so the distributors, who knows, a couple of them probably be fine. A couple of them probably going to go out of business and a couple of them probably consolidate. But what about Blowout, DA, and Steel City, whose revenue is probably more closely tied again to Topps and Panini and that relationship? How is that going to change? Is Michael Rubin going to give boxes and give product at a homie hookup price and give a certain percentage of the Fanatics online exclusive to Fish, DA Car World, and Steel City?
No, period. No, that's not his MO. That's not what an NBA owner would do. That's not what a billionaire would do. A billionaire would say, what does Tom Fish and Blowout add to the hobby? What do they add? What does Blowout cards do that's any different than Joe Blow cards? If I gave 10 boxes to Blowout and I gave 10 boxes to JoeBlowCards.com, what does Blowout do that's any different than Joe Blow cards? Nothing. Maybe a card fondler could make up some excuses, but take the 100-foot view. JoeBlow.com's over here. Blowout's over here. They both are offering a product at a price. What's the difference? Absolutely nothing. Now we could start splitting hairs with breakers. This breaker does it better. This breaker talks better. This breaker knows how to pronounce.
We'll get into them in a minute.
But with Blowout and DA and Steel City and any of these companies, they don't do anything. The value of their business is their relationship in the horizontally integrated business that we have currently in trading cards instead of vertically integrated. Amazon.com, AWS that runs it, the shipping platform that runs it, the advertising, that is vertically integrated. Whole Foods underneath it all. That is vertical integration. Okay. What we have in the trading card industry is horizontal integration. And that just makes no sense to anybody that wants to maximize their profits. Why, if I'm Michael Rubin and Fanatics, and I have my own website that gets 10 times more traffic than any of these guys, I've got an email list that would dwarf any of these guys.
80 million.
80 million. I've got marketing budgets that dwarf what these guys do. Not only that, I got to give them some margin. I got to sell them a box that I know for a fact they'll be able to sell for 500. Well, I got to sell it to them for 400 or for 450 or for worse yet, $50 like F1 Chrome was. F1 Chrome, the cost on it was like $50. So I just gave him like a 1,000 points of margin, and he doesn't do anything that's any different than, first of all, the next guy, but certainly compared to a Fanatics and going to their website or a Fans Edge or whatever properties that he owns. He could sell it on SanFranciscoGiants.com. He basically owns that shop. He owns the Sixers
Lakers
website,
team store. Yeah.
the Lakers team store. Okay. So those guys, what value do they add? This is what you always want to ask yourself as a business person. Like, what's my value? What's my worth? Most of you guys think about it in, I put in an hour of work and I get $18. That's your worth. You're worth $18 an hour. Okay. Michael Rubin is going to look at the room and say, what are these guys worth? What is Blowout worth? What does he do for me? Nothing. It's a red hot trading card market. He literally could put a case of National Treasures in a ring of fire, and there'd be a line 4 miles deep of guys willing to run through the fire to grab the product. Okay, this wasn't the case 10 years ago. You could put a case of product, maybe not National Treasures, but a slow selling product in a case of ringing fire, and nobody would want to risk their life actually getting the product. Now you got guys literally getting in fights in Target and I don't know, hopefully no one's died, but we've had like physical altercations, which stopped the biggest one of the biggest retailers, two of the biggest retailers in not only the United States, but the world, to stop selling the product. This product is so hot, people are going to blows for it. Why in the hell do I need blowout cards? Why do I need any of these idiots? They don't do anything that anybody else can't do. And on top of that, Michael Rubin has been in the e-commerce business for more than half his life. He's 49 years old. He started in the 90s.
He doesn't need these guys. He really doesn't need these guys.
No.
Okay, so wow. Topps is screwed. One of the worst days in the history of the company.
Yep.
What got overlooked is basically the same thing happened to Panini. So basically one of the worst days in the history of Panini, but they have the soccer stickers. So at the end of the day, they could still walk away with $1 billion business. They didn't get hurt as bad as Topps did. It kind of sucks that Panini came over here and basically did the same thing as Rubin did in 2009. And here they are, 2021. They basically got, kicked out the door for doing all this work, but they could probably sell their scrap to Rubin, which is pretty high likelihood. Cause again, they could just go home and sell the soccer stickers. If you're a distributor, maybe if you're a GTS or a Southern Hobby that's tied into this other stuff, you're gonna be fine. You could pivot. You've got all this other product you could sell, and you can do some other things. You're fine. If you're a Blowout, a DA, a Steel City, this was an absolutely historic, horrific day for you because your relationship's going to change. The way you're going to get product is you're probably going to look back and be like, wow, Blowout used to sell baseball cards and now they literally don't anymore. Mm-hmm. They all these pushes is this gaming stuff, and those websites are going to have to pivot tremendously. God only knows what's going to happen to those websites. Let's go further down the food chain. What about the distributors and in some respects, DAs and Blowout's main customers are probably group breakers, large group breakers. What's going to happen to these guys? Again, I don't think people realize this. A group breaker, their business model is the relationship they have with the distributor, GTS and Southern Hobby, and in some cases, the relationship they have with the manufacturer themselves to be able to get product at cost. And sometimes in volume, you need not one case of National Treasures, you need 15, and you need to get that at a very affordable price. So a group breaker, if you get around a group breakers, all they talk about is their allocation, how much they're getting from GTS, how much they're getting from Panini, how much they're getting from Gold River, how much they're getting from here. That whole model, as we have explained, is gone because, again, what does Michael Rubin need GTS for? What does he need Southern Hobby for? What does he need Blowout for? What does he need DA for? He doesn't need these guys. He is an $18 billion business that runs e-commerce. Does it again? Where's a local sports store? Where is a local Lakers team store that's not run by Fanatics? Where these things don't exist. So the same thing could happen in cards. these guys could get wiped off the planet because they're not needed. So now let's go to group breakers. Let's assume that he's still going to create packs in a traditional sense. Again, that's something that could totally change. He could just sell singles. He could just, God only knows how this is going to be run. The company's going to be run supposedly by the StockX founder, Josh Luber or whatever.
Yeah.
So group breakers, let's go to them. Large group breakers, they rely essentially the same deals as Fish and Adam Martin at DA Cardwell and the guys at Steel City. It's a relationship thing, either with the distributor, the manufacturers, or even, the relationship with Blowout. I'm sure the group breakers get a homie hookup at those places because they're one of the top customers. How is this going to change for the big group breaker? How is he or she going to get product that they're going to, because eventually people are going to stop wanting to break 2017 football and blah, and that's going to get so expensive and so washed up that you're not going to be able to do that in mass.
Yeah. The
business model for group breakers is to get the brand new product, bust 10 cases, and then, have these little mixers and repack product, but just keep the calendar of the products from Topps and Panini, and especially Panini keeps the train rolling. So how does this affect group breakers? What the hell should they do? Do they even realize the truck that's about to hit their business?
Well, I think what could change is not necessarily the way they do business, but their margins for sure. Because I don't see Michael Rubin saying, yeah, you breaker, you can get 12 cases. And over here, you can get 10 cases. You can get 8 cases, and kind of handing money down the food chain like that. These guys are certainly going to be able to buy product at full retail price and go ahead and break it. And so if you are a breaker and you're able to acquire product at a retail cost and still make money, which a breaker is adding a layer of service to the actual product. Okay. They are breaking it for you. They're packing it up and shipping you. They're allowing you to buy a certain team or a certain aspect of that break and give you an opportunity. So the breaking business is a little, just slightly different than blowout cards, where there's really no difference between a blowout cards and a Joe Blow card, especially when you take 100 steps back and you don't know anything about either company, and one's got a price and the other one's got a price. Okay. And you're going to buy just based strictly probably on price and those types of things. A breaker, there's a little bit more to the story. And so I think the days are over where you're going to have breakers get a ton of product at what we would call a wholesale price. For example, F1 Chrome, again, $49 cost on that, $500 retail. I'm sure if you're running a group break operation, you might be able to get well over $500 retail on a box based on the breaking out the spots and those types of things. I think that's going to change a little bit. If I was a breaker right now, and assuming that we have another year or so where your relationship with your distributor, your relationship with the Topps Direct, Panini Direct, let's just assume you got another 12 months where that's going to be uninterrupted. Okay, we can assume maybe 12 months, maybe uninterrupted. I'd be spending those 12 months doing two things. Number one, getting my customer list really, really good. Okay, customer list is number one, email, and then have them follow you on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, those types of things. The reason why you want the email is because you own that. Okay, if you say too many positive things about President Trump or negative things about a health situation, they'll kick you off really fast on those sites. And so if you say the wrong things on those sites, they'll kick you off. So having a follower on a Twitter, a subscriber on YouTube, those are in your possession only to a certain degree. Whereas if you own somebody's email address and you know he likes the Giants and you know he likes to spend this amount of money, that's some valuable information. I would build that up. Number two thing I would do, start selling other stuff. Chances are you got a GTS account. Chances are you got a Southern Hobby account. And guess what? I was at Southern Hobby. Well, actually, we both were. You went to Southern Hobby too. And I don't think you had a chance to go in the back.
I went in the back.
The first time I went, it's in a big, I don't know how many square feet it is. I asked them how many square feet it was. They didn't know. We're talking 50,000 square feet, might be more than that. I don't know. It's just gigantic. Okay. And when you go back in the warehouse, I was like, whoa, it's a lot of square feet. Okay. I mean, you could pull a plane, like an airplane into it. Like it's that big, like a jumbo jet. Okay. Where they had the trading cards was about the size of my office right now, which I don't know what this is, 200 square feet, something like that. My office is really small. Okay. So think about a 200 square foot office. That's where the trading cards was. That's where the trading cards was. Everything else was supplies, board games, toys, dice. Gosh, there's just the
On
little
and on.
books. There's a lot of books that they sell that you can make a lot of money on. Just a litany of other products. And so if I was a group breaker, I and I'm concerned. I'm concerned for our friends that we saw over at Mojo Break just 2 weeks ago. Imagine the conversation we'd be having tonight with these guys. And we'll give them some time to digest this and think about it. And it's something I'd love to talk to them about, and other breakers out there as well. Love to hear their perspective and what they're thinking and those types of things. But if I were to give some advice, I'd say you got to diversify, and you better diversify now, and get your customer list. And maybe you start selling singles. You absolutely got to start selling supplies. Get on Amazon and again, sell board games, sell all this other stuff. Okay. If you want to stay in this business, and if you're big and you got employees and you got payroll, you're going to have to transition into these industries. And I've seen group breaks for Magic. I've seen group breaks for Flesh and Blood. I've seen group breaks for Yu-Gi-Oh. Okay. Those things do exist. And I think that is where your greenfield market is potentially going to be, is actually breaking non-licensed, non-sports stuff. Okay. So not sports stuff, but Yu-Gi-Oh, Magic, Flesh and Blood, Star Realms, Hero Realms, those types of things. Figure out how you can penetrate those markets and disrupt those a little bit, because the group breakers business was built on disruption. Group breakers like Mojo Break saw there was a gap there. The technology was there in terms of the internet and streaming and chatting and getting community together. And they disrupted the business, because before it was just Blowout. Okay. You got on Blowout. And if you wanted to do a break, you organized it on a forum. I was probably involved in some of the very first group breaks held online. I remember buying into group breaks for a couple bucks. People would do them for a couple bucks. They buy an $80 box. They throw up it on the forum and they say, hey, I love the New York Giants. I want to buy a box and I want to keep the New York Giants cards, but I want you to give the opportunity to everybody else to get their team. And I would buy into these. I would always get the Bengals. It'd be like $4 or $5 or whatever. And you get some cards, and then they turn that into a business. And so they disrupted that. And so that's what I would be looking to do next if I was a group breaker. I'd be like, what can I disrupt? What can I add value to? And the answers might not be crystal clear at the current moment, because there's a lot of uncertainties. We don't know what's going to happen to Topps. We don't know what's going to happen to Panini. And when we say that, we're not sure what's going to happen to those brands. What is going to happen to those brands? And, I would start thinking about those types of things. And when exactly?
When.
Could be next week. Could be tomorrow.
Right.
It could be a year from now. It could be that Michael Rubin just sits back and says, I'm just going to wait till 2025. My buddies over at the NFL ain't worried. They know what, my buddies in the NBA are not worried. We'll just sit around to 2025. We'll bleed these companies dry. They'll either go bankrupt like every other card company has done, or, so if I was a breaker, I'd be thinking, how do I disrupt my next industry? How do I add value to something? And how do I get more value out of the relationship that you already had? Because believe me, I put in pre-orders for trading cards. I've actually stopped doing that because I don't get anything, but I put in pre-orders for Magic. I'll put in pre-orders for Flesh and Blood. I'll put in pre-orders for board games. Believe it or not, board games get hot. And there's pre-orders, there's allocations for certain board games, Christmas, the little Funko figures or whatever. Okay. There's allocations for those. There's allocations for a lot of other stuff. You get your hands on it and you can sell it. Okay. Are you going to be able to sell it on your webcam to your existing client base? Not necessarily, but I tell you what, you probably got a couple months here. Look, we're going to have product all this at least for the next probably 12 months, I would assume. Those products are already in the works. They're not made yet, but a lot of those products are already in the works. And we even saw this with Panini for a certain degree. Products were in the works and they got rolled out right when they first kind of got into the business, and they got better. They launched a Prism and those types of things. And so I would look at it that way. I'd go back to my roots, go back to 2011, 2012, 2013, 2015, 2016, whenever you guys started. And I'd start from the bottom and move my way back up to the top. And I'd be sure as heck to have a little bit of a nest egg. If you don't want to go back to working a 9-to-5 job, if you don't want to go back to working even a part-time job, I think it would be wise to build up some nest egg, a little bit of cash. I'd also work on financing as well right now. Okay, your business is making money. Your business has cash flow. Go borrow some money. Your business is not going to know the finer details of what's going to happen to your business 12 months from now. Go borrow some money. Go get a line of credit. Don't leverage your house. Don't leverage anything like your primary house. You got a secondary vacation home or whatever. I'd leverage that, but don't leverage your livelihood, your house, but go get some money. Your business is good right now. It's probably going to stay good. Go borrow some money. And I'm not saying go out and spend it, but at least that's there for you. A little bit of savings for you. It'll buy you some time, because what we are not going to say, the point I don't want to come across on the show is, yeah, it's pretty dire for Topps. And the deal that they had to go public at $1.5 billion is looking really, really, where it looked like a certainty to happen, an absolute stone cold certainty, now looks in jeopardy. Panini going public at $3 billion, or getting sold to A-Rod at $3 billion. A-Rod's not stupid. He's not going to do that unless he really values the soccer stickers, which is possible. It's like $1 billion business almost, probably. So I could see paying $3 billion just for the soccer stickers and the trading cards you sell to Rubin for $200 million, and it makes the deal look even better. I could see doing something like that. But you know, we're saying the situation is bleak, but whenever you have change, whenever you have disruption, that is when you can get absolutely stone cold filthy rich, is when there's disruption. Think about the breakers that got in early, the Mojo breaks, the Leighton sports cards, whoever else is out there, the Infinity card guy. I'm not sure if that's how he still goes, but like think about those guys that were in there in the early days of breaking. Those guys have done really well. Okay. And they were in the early days of innovation and disruption. And I think we're going to become into the early days of innovation and disruption, because that's exactly what we saw today. Fanatics just did disruption, and they're going to spend the next 10 years, 20 years, maybe even innovating. And so there's always going to be these opportunities over the next 12, 24 months, and even beyond that, where we have innovation and disruption. And those people that embrace that and are willing to pivot, willing to move, willing to do those types of things and this is, you can look at successful companies across all industries. Amazon, Apple. Amazon in terms of e-commerce, innovated, disrupted. Apple with a cell phone, innovated, and just took their company to the highest stratosphere of any company ever. Okay. And so it can be done by, especially if you're a breaker, especially like a one that's really done this well for fun job. I have complete confidence that you're going to be able to innovate and disrupt and pivot your business to a certain degree over the next 12 to 24 months, that you're going to be okay. Are you going to be balling? Are you going to be, Rolex City? Maybe not. Maybe for a couple years, you do have to take a little bit of a step back. Your margins have to come down, because Michael Rubin and Fanatics are going to take a lot more margin than what we saw in the past. Okay.
Here's the thing. The old model, the way the old model worked is you actually had to set up a store to be able to get this direct product and to be able to really get allocation. Like, you have to have a store, unless you're just sitting around, maybe like a Platinum Card Breaks or somebody like throwing around a ton of money that gets allocation without a physical store. And maybe he does have a physical store. I actually don't know. But what they make you to become an Upper Deck Diamond dealer, you have to have a physical store. You got to become a part of the club. And Panini, same thing. To get a box direct, you have to have a store. I mean, there's a guy in South Carolina or North Carolina. He comes on our Facebook page, and all he brags about is that he gets a case of Panini at cost. So he's like, dude, I got a $20,000 case of National Treasures every year. Like, F your Rolex, F your stock, like this. So if you're a breaker or your shop owner and you basically opened a store to get allocation, and now that business model's totally changed, because Rubin is not gonna, I mean, even if Rubin buys Topps or buys Panini, he's not going to keep that same model. Presumably, again, I don't see a local sports. You don't see local sports stores. You don't see local selling Buster Posey jerseys. So the way the stores work, and if you have a store or you're thinking about opening a store, what do you do if you're a breaker and you basically had to open a store to become big and get allocation? What do you do now? Because there's your store. I mean, you got a lot of bills associated with that. And now you're basically going to be what? Buying Fanatics product at retail and hoping it goes up, or hoping that there's some channel that you can get Fanatics product. Rubin's going to cut you in somehow, or there's, you're able to get this. I don't know how that's really going to work, but there's tons of people out there that opened a store to get allocation, to get a direct account, to become big. And now literally tomorrow, that could all go away if Panini and Topps hasten their decision, sell to Rubin, and then this Fanatics thing just like hits the ground running in 6 months to a year. But at the very least, we're on a few-year timeline. What do you do if your business model totally changed? Why you opened this store wasn't to be good to the community and be good and be buds and da-da-da. No, you opened this for allocation and to become an upper deck diamond dealer and get allocation, and to get more allocation from GTS and get more allocation from Sub Hobby and create direct accounts with all the manufacturers. What do you do in this scenario for those guys?
I think it depends on who. Did you open the store so you could break cards in the back, which we've seen evidence of, and that is that we're not criticizing that business model at all. In fact, it's fantastic. Okay. Do you have a shop where the people coming in expect to see the bulk of your clients are coming in, buying packs, buying boxes, buying modern? Or is it a mix? Do you have a mix where you have some people come in, they buy some singles, they buy some supplies, they buy some Pokemon, Yu-Gi-Oh, those types of things? I think it's going to be shop by shop, but I'll tell you what, if I was a breaker and I only opened up a shop so I could get allocation for Panini, first of all, I'd be going on the shortest lease terms I possibly can, because it's possible I could close up shop. I don't need expensive, and out here in California, it might be different in other places, but out here in California, I'd instead of owning retail shop, which out here in California, at least $1 a square foot, to have some open door retail in a strip mall, mini mall, whatever. In a mall, it's even more, $4, $5, $10, $20 a square foot. Yeah. So I'd much rather go to industrial or office, where you can I pay maybe 75 cents a square foot or something like that. It's actually a nice office. And it's walk-up office. You can have people come in and stuff. Well, I'd go to the ghetto and, stick up some bars on the window and get it for 25 cents a square foot. You certainly can find 25, 50 cents a square foot space. Maybe not really small spaces, but you could probably sublease into those types of things. So I would actually look to get out of any expensive lease I had if I was only basically having that storefront as a front, which Blowout does. Many of the breakers do. They basically have a front of the store just to appease Topps and Panini and a couple of this is evidence of that good old boy network. You had to open up a shop so little Joe Blow in Colorado wouldn't get upset. Okay, we can't upset him because we've been dealing with him for 10 years and we have dinner with him once a year. And it's like, so it depends on what your shop is. And can you, and again, we talked about how there's board games, there's these little figures, there's the stuff you can paint, there's models, there's all this stuff, there are RC cars, everything. I mean, there's just a plethora of things. So could you change your product mix in your shop? And this is assuming if you have a lot of walk-in clients, you're not doing a lot of this stuff online. Can you change your model, your product mix in your shop, and then maybe do a little bit of advertising and let some customers that have never walked in the door, because they know that you only have Yu-Gi-Oh and sports cards, and they're not really into that. But now you got Monopoly, you got Jenga. I've been selling Jenga. Like I got 4 cases of Jenga, and that's been a great seller for me. Harry Potter, Scooby-Doo Jenga. I can get that at half off what it sells on Amazon. So I can sell it. I can't sell it online, but I can sell it through my own websites and things like that. I can make some margin on that. And so that's where I think the pivot has to be. If you want to maintain your business, maybe you get a little bit more into sports memorabilia. I know Fanatics has a big corner on that, but there's probably ways that you can get, especially local athletes that might sell for a little bit more of a premium in your market. Work out a deal. Not if you're in San Francisco, probably not with Steph Curry, probably not with Draymond Green, but Jordan Poole was at a card show we were at. So I could probably call Jordan Poole's agent, and especially if he's going to show up at a card show, and get 400 things signed, or maybe 40 things signed. And so I would start thinking about, instead of selling boxes and packs, how can I sell more singles? How can I sell other products? And that's what I would be working on.
But what you're saying is, and we probably should drill this point home. Michael Rubin isn't going to be selling you guys boxes. In the traditional sense.
Right. He might, but the good old boy network will be gone. He won't care about how many dinners you had with Clay over at Tops. He won't care that you're Tom Fish and you blowout card. He's not going to give a damn about you. He's going to want to control, because it's his brand going on the cards, whether it says Fanatics or if he buys a Tops or Panini, that's his. And not only that, he takes even more pride in it because he's actually an owner of one of the NBA teams. So he's actually going to take even more pride in this. This is like his baby. And so he's going to take a lot of pride in this. And I don't see him. And again, we have evidence that of all the jerseys, we went on Fanatics today and we looked at the prices of these jerseys, and there ain't nothing on sale. There ain't nothing on sale. And I know over the last year, I bought a Ben Roethlisberger football and a Drew Brees football autographed off of Fanatics website, because that's really the only place to get it if you want it to be 100% legit. Those were full price. I mean, I had coupon codes. They list everything on their website full price. And they run 20% off Memorial Day sales, or they run 25% off entire site. That's kind of how the e-commerce business works outside of Amazon marketplaces. You're driving to the lowest price. Outside of Amazon and eBay and marketplaces, you're actually looking to drive the higher price. And even outside, and this is why you get exclusive deals, because like a Target and a Walmart, they have to match Amazon price, right? Okay. On dryer sheets or dishwasher detergents, Target and Walmart have to set up software to match. And same thing with Amazon. They all have to match each other's price. And so it's a race to the bottom. Okay. And same with marketplace sellers. You're constantly kind of racing that price to the bottom. But exclusive products where you can't sell Nike jerseys on Amazon without going through Fanatics. You can't sell officially licensed goods on Amazon. It's very hard to do. Okay. Now you control the price. Okay. And that's why he can list jerseys for $300 on Fanatics and not have any competition. Nobody is going to drop the price lower than him. So why would he sell to Blowout and run the risk that Blowout buys it and then he has trouble selling it or whatever, and he drops the price on it? Why would he do that? Why would he do that? It doesn't make any sense. And also, he's giving margin to somebody that doesn't necessarily add a ton of value. And so it wouldn't surprise me if there are, quote, direct accounts with a new Fanatics or a Fanatics that owns Tops, Fanatics that own Panini, or any combination of that. Wouldn't surprise me if there's direct accounts, because I believe you can get direct accounts with Fanatics to sell the autographed merchandise, because like I've said, I've seen third parties sell this, and I don't necessarily think it's somebody buying it and just decided to sell it. I think it's an actual retailer, but the terms of that is going to be very strict. And the pricing of that is going to be very, very strict. Where you can sell that, how much you can sell that is going to be very, 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 very strictly determined. And he's going to want to control the bulk of that. I think he's going to want the bulk of the sales going through Fanatics. And what we really haven't talked about, and maybe I'm jumping the gun here, is he's going to want to vertically integrate the trading card business. So we have the card maker. We open the cards with the card maker. We look at the cards online potentially with the card maker. Then I buy and sell and trade the cards on the card maker's website. We see a little bit of evidence of this with EPAC, actually. You open EPAC on Upper Deck's websites. You view the cards and organize them and store them in your portfolio on EPAC. And then they happen to partner with Check Out My Cards, but you can buy and you can essentially sell the cards on EPAC. Okay. Check Out My Cards. And I think Michael Rubin is going to want to do the same thing. You buy the cards on Fanatics or whatever website he decides to set up. You open them up digitally. Maybe you get an NFT with it. Maybe you get, there's some exclusive cards, whatever, but you're going to pay full retail price. You're going to open up the cards online. You're going to get images of all those and store them in your portfolio. Then you're going to be able to trade them or sell them at your leisure with your friends. And he's going to take a cut of that. Okay. That's margin that Topps and Panini has never, ever, ever seen, is marketplace revenues. He's going to be able to skim right off the top. You open up a box of Fanatics Chromanium basketball and you pull Mellow Ball that's worth $300 and you want to sell it. Well, now you get to sell it right there with a click of the button, and he's going to collect a check on that. And then on top of that, he's going to probably want you to be able to grade that card there as well. And so I think you're going to see this stacking of the trading card business. Instead of you buy it at Topps makes it, they sell it to GTS. GTS sells it to Blowout. You buy it. The breaker buys it from Blowout, and then he breaks it on camera. And then finally you get your cards. That's the 1998 model. That's the 2005, 2008 model. Now the new model is going to be open online, look at the cards online, share them online on their website, buy and sell and trade.
Also an NFT.
And an NFT on that website. Then you're going to be able to grade the cards. I think they'll just Topps grading, Panini grading, Fanatics grading. They're going to allow you to slab the cards right there.
Right.
And sell all those cards. So I think we're going to see a vertical integration that makes no sense to include. Maybe, anyone. I can include this guy over here for certain products and certain things, but doesn't make a lot of sense. And we've even seen Nike go to this. Okay. Think about a company like Nike, which I think is just one of the greatest companies in the world. And in fact, if you listen to Nike, they don't even say that they're a shoe company. And I think that's one of this was an old CEO, and with Phil Knight as well. He would always say Nike is not a shoe company. We're a marketing company. And what has Nike done over the last few years? They used to give the hottest releases to Foot Locker. You used to have to line up at Foot Locker, just like you lined up for Blasters, to get the hottest Jordans. And to a certain degree, that happens a little bit. But what Nike's done is they've taken that out. Now you got to download the sneakers app on your phone to get the hottest releases, and you're putting a drawing. And I've been fortunate enough to win some of these and actually make money on these shoes and wear some, but you got to get on your phone now and buy directly from Nike.com the hottest stuff. Does Foot Locker still get some Air Maxes? Sure. Does Foot Locker get some stuff? Yeah. Does eSpace still exist? Sure. Those companies still exist, but they don't get the hot, rare Jordan anymore, because Nike realized it. Well, wait a second. Why do I sell it to them for 90 so they can sell it for 180 when I can sell it for 180 on my own website?
Well, and then the guys waiting out in line sell it for 500. So it's exactly that too.
Right. And they still leave you some meat on the bone, but it is controlled then by,
At least
at
all
least
through them,
Nike
yeah.
captures the vast majority of that. That is the trend in e-commerce. And we started the show off. Michael Rubin doesn't own an NBA team because his daddy was rich. His dad might have been successful. I don't know. He didn't own an NBA team because he found a bunch of money on the ground or he married some hot chick that was super rich. He started an e-commerce business back in the 90s before anybody outside of maybe Jeff Bezos really had a big clue about how big e-commerce, and even Jeff Bezos was only into books. He was big and innovated on distribution and e-commerce way before anybody thought that that was going to be a big deal. And so I truly believe he is going to look at a company like Nike, who he has a deep partnership with. He has a deep MLB jersey license partnership with Nike, one of the greatest companies in the world, one of the biggest companies in the world, certainly the biggest clothing company in the world from a market perspective is Nike. And he's going to want to copy that business model, that instead, and look, Topps and Panini are doing that now. They are launching some of their best products online exclusive, first off the line. And so we already saw the industry shifting that way. But Panini and Topps were in the middle of this horizontal integration where they had to still pat the ass of Blowout and DA. They still had to pat the ass of GTS and Southern Hobby and some other distributors. They still had to pat the ass to the little hobby shop guy that they had a direct relationship with. That all gets wiped clean. And Michael Rubin says, I'm Nike. I don't need to sell you anything other than what I want to. So do I think there'll be opportunities out there to get some product? Sure. But I think the dream and the vision, especially with, like you said, the team that he had, Michael Rubin's got other things to do, hanging out with Meek Mill or something like that, or maybe DMing me on Twitter.
Maybe you, yeah.
Talking about Rolexes since he follows
Shaq
them.
and Jeff Bezos all hanging out, and Rubes.
Yeah, exactly. We'll get in like a 4-way conversation on Twitter, those guys and me, and we'll start showing off our watches or something. Or talk about the new Submariner that just came out, and it's a little larger. It's got the green bezel and the black dial. We'll start talking about stuff like that. He's not going to be running this thing. You've alluded to the people that are going to be running this thing. These guys are in e-commerce. They're in vertical integration, those types of things. They're going to launch products straight to StockX. They're going to launch products straight to different things. And so I think there'll be some opportunities out there. I think you're still probably going to be able to buy product, but I don't think it's going to be at significant discounts. It's not going to be like an F1 Chrome or something like that, where it's just an immediate 10X and those types of things. It doesn't happen very often. It happens a little bit with Nike on the app, but you're only going to get one. You're only going to get one box. It's the days of getting 15 cases dropped at your door that your margins on it is 300%. I think those days are over, because there's really not a lot of businesses out there that are allowed to do that. Even Rolex ADs, like a watch like this is $9,000 retail. And on the secondary market, it's worth $18,000. Well, the AD can't sell this for $18,000. He can't. So the biggest brands out there, the richest brands, don't allow people downstream to make the money. It just doesn't happen.
So you're either in a hot market, like let's say when Fanatics gets the license, and let's say cards are still hot or become hot again or whatever. So in that type of market, the only way you're actually going to be able to get product, the way you get product now is you just have a relationship essentially with a distributor or the Topps or Panini. Now you're either going to need a really good bot or really fast fingers, or you're just going to have to pony up at full price or whatever it's being sold at and all the discount codes you can get and then have a way to sell it. So that appears to be the way. Your business model may not change. You may still break 2017 Fanatics Chromanium basketball, but you're going to pay full price. You're going to get it from Fanatics, and how much you acquire could determine a number of different, the demand of the product, what you're willing your margin to be, how good of a bot you have. who you then buy it from afterwards. Like, I guess there will be people who acquire this stuff and then kind of hold it, like kind of like a Blowout. But again, Blowout, I don't think people understand Blowout's relationship. Blowout Steel City and DA's relationship was a chummy relationship. Like, you go to the Transcendent party and this MF or Fish would get like 27 of the bags with autographs and everything. And when Chris Bryant was over there, it was like Fish was getting them all, you know what I mean? And he would over there having a private conversation with the GM. God only knows what happens. And the little side deals and the little private deals and the this and the this and the this. Those things were built on, a relationship. Whereas Fish and all those guys are not going to have that with Rubin and Fanatics, and that's not going to exist. For a while, Topps and Panini didn't even have their own e-commerce website. So that's why it kind of worked, because Fanatics, Steel City, and Blowout essentially worked as a Fanatics. Fanatics doesn't need them at all. So, it's going to be, for them, I think this news is as hard for them as it is for Topps, because they're so closely aligned with Topps and Panini. And then also some group breakers, because you have essentially the same deal as you do with, as Blowout does, and with these distributors. Your business changed drastically because you essentially rely on new product and getting a certain amount of it. And now all of that is up in the air past 2023. Perhaps sooner, I guess, if Rubin makes a move and gets one or more of these companies and just starts the whole process before that. So, and this is all going off of, how will Rubin fundamentally change the way cards are sold? They're sold one way in these packs, and, in the last, again, 10, 15 years, we've seen innovation in group breaking. Maybe he doesn't see it that way. Maybe he sees you just buying cards on StockX, or buying them already graded, or buying them like sneakers and you put in bids or you put in whatever. I don't know. I don't know how he sees it. He paid 10x more. He cut the leagues into the deal. So he's going to have to sell a lot more cards, and he believes that he can. I think they said that they thought it was going to be a $2 or $4 billion industry by 2045. That's how far in advance he's thinking. He's thinking decades in advance. And I think it has to include a marketplace. I think it has to include him getting the transaction. He's selling the card, and then he's getting the transaction off of you, like an eBay, a ComC, and some of these other websites that have popped up. I think he has to either buy an e-commerce. He has to buy ComC would be a great website for him to buy. He has to buy or create. I mean, he has enough money, he can create it on his own. StockX, is its own entity, and he has the guy, apparently Luber's running the company who founded StockX. He needs a marketplace. To me, that makes the deal make sense, because now it's like, oh, okay, he's going to create this card in 2027, but in 2035, he's still going to be making money off of it. This is something Topps and Panini should have done. Upper Deck has tried to do it with EPAC to a degree, but again, they don't have the licensing to make this worth their while. This is something Topps and Panini should have done a long time ago, was create a market. They've let it all go to eBay, all go and grade the cards or authenticate them, or just quote authenticate them. It's Topps authenticated. They should have done this long time ago. They didn't have the foresight, the people there, the vision, the intelligent people there.
And to give Topps some credits, they tried a little bit with something like the Pit. They tried a little bit with eTopps. They tried to a certain degree, but they were probably a little early, and they didn't have the intelligence.
They didn't have the right people.
Didn't have the right people. Didn't have the right technology. So Topps actually tried to vertically integrate the business through eTopps to a certain degree, although they used eBay kind of as the platform to buy and sell. And they tried to vertically integrate it. They owned the Pit at one time, which is like, for those of you that don't know, it's the website is still around. You can still buy and sell cards on the Pit. In fact, we've bought and sold cards on the Pit in the last 6 months ourselves. And so that just shows you there's a lot of opportunity out there. A lot of you guys are just focused on the distributor relationship, the relationship we have with Panini. There's a lot of ways to buy and sell stuff. Okay. And if you haven't been on the Pitts website to buy some cards to resell them, well, then, there's some opportunity right there. But Topps tried to vertically integrate the business to a certain degree. They're the quote unquote manufacturer of the cards. They tried to get you to eTopps was slightly different, but the pit itself was a direct play on that. But a lot of that was graded cards as well. And so you still had to use a third party like a PSA or an SGC or something like that to send those, or BGS to send those cards in. And so I think we are on the verge in this hobby of a complete vertical integration of the trading card business, which I think would be really exciting as a collector. I think there's a lot of collectors out there watching. I would say, probably our audience is probably split in half. We have just the classic collector watching, but probably half our business is the industry, considering all these guys can quote exactly what we say. These guys like claim they hate us, but then they get on our Facebook page and know the reference model to which Rolex I had on the video and the model of a Mercedes and probably how many miles it has. So our audience is split between
what we said 10 years ago
and the average collector. And so I think the average collector can be excited that the industry is going to vertically integrate around a technology set. And I think that's exciting, where I'm going to be able to think EPAC. I think EPAC is probably the best example because I truly think that's probably a version of what he's looking to go for. Instead of having to box this stuff up and pack it up and then figure out, look, we talked for an hour on distribution. It gets a hell of a lot easier when all it is a digital picture. And I'm not talking about all cards going to digital. What I'm talking about is originally the card starts as a digital product and I open it online. And then only later, if I want to, can I have that card physically delivered to me or my buddy or my friends or whoever. And so I'm able to open that product instead of all products today, or most of them outside of EPAC and some of this other stuff, start in a box with some wrapping around it. Cellophane, open it up, sort them out. If I want to sell them, I've got to take a scan of it. I got to get on my picture. Then I got to get on my own Twitter feed and my own Instagram or my own eBay account, which if I'm a new guy, think about a new guy to the hobby. I have no followers on Twitter. I have no reputation online. I have no feedback on eBay because I'm a young guy and I haven't been using eBay. And I pull some I happen to pull some cards that are valuable. Well, this is why PWCC was allowed to be successful. This is why a Probstein was successful, because the barrier for the new guy or even the semi-new guy to sell this card on his own was impossible. Well, now I'm going to be able to buy the card over here online and pull it on the world's probably what could potentially become the world's most popular trading card site. And so now I'm going to be able to have that over there that they are going to have in their possession. And if I want to sell it, I can sell it. And Fanatics is going to take 10% of that or whatever they decide to take. If I want to trade it, I can trade it. If I want to take delivery of it, I can click a button and I can take delivery of it and I can scan it myself. I can sell it on eBay, however I want to do. And if I want to grade it or authenticate it and put it in a slab before they send it to me, well, they'll do that too. And they'll put it in a sealed slab. They don't necessarily have to grade it. Think about all these problems we have with fake patch cards. How can fake patch cards be solved? To a certain degree. There's obviously ways scammers get around all this stuff, but to a certain degree, you could eliminate the worry about buying a fake patch card. I buy the pack online, I open it up online, and before I send it to me, I say, oh yeah, for an extra $3, they're going to put it in this vacuum sealed case and guarantee that it's authentic. And now I'm going to be able to take that card and maybe pay the extra $3 and I can sell it on Fanatics website, pay them the 5%, or I can take delivery of it and they'll take a percentage. They're not going to give me a discount on shipping. They're going to make money on shipping. They're going to send it to me. And then I can list that on eBay or whatever, wherever I want to do. And so I think we're going to have a full integration as a collector. I think that will be exciting, whether or not we're trading Topps Heritage on there, whether or not we're trading Fanatics, Series 1 baseball on there. I don't necessarily think is relevant, especially when we're talking 20, 30 years down the line. And we don't need to get into a conversation. We've been to card shows. The old guy is gone. The old collector, the card fondler that we talked about here on the show, that's gone. There's at least hundreds of thousands, probably millions of new collectors out there. These guys don't care. They don't care. They're ready for new stuff. These guys are younger. They're smarter than you. They're less, they're less set in their ways than
they
you.
think about cards differently.
Think about cards differently.
Not attached to the brands.
They're not attached to the brands. They don't know about the licenses. They don't really care. And if it changes, sure, the little old guy that's been on Twitter since 2008, he's, that buys every Topps Living set buys his factory set every year and sends stuff to PSA. You lose him as a customer, it doesn't matter. What did they do before? Where was the hobby when those guys were our primary customer? The hobby was in the tank. You could get in stock product, okay? It wasn't as hot as it was. You could go to Target and Walmart and there'd just be cards overflowing. When did the card industry blow up? When we brought in new collectors, new guys, new women, new kids, new dads again, bringing those people back. A lot of it was just bringing people back into the hobby. Those are the people that we are catering to now. The average guy, the guy that started group breaking in 2011, time's passed you by. It's over. The only legacy business that is probably going to be left in 4 or 5 years, supplies. The plastic, that's never going to change. And God only knows, Fanatics is probably going to create some supplies. Why would they buy it from Ultra Pro? It's a piece of plastic. I know they got patents and those types of things, so they've got to be a little careful. And that's why I love Ultra Pro's business, is because they've got patents on like pieces of plastic that aren't, there's not a lot going on there, but they've got these patents around some of this stuff. But you can modify a few things, and it's not a big deal. We see it with Beckett, just came out with some supplies, and you got BCW and other ones out there. So they're probably going to come out with their own supplies. There's not going to be a lot of sleepy businesses anymore. And there's not going to be that good old boy network that stretches out. When you go to the National, it's Tom Fish tapping the ass of whoever works over at Panini. It's Tracy Hackler over there chumming it up with the breaker and doing all this stuff. Nah, you guys are like little 40K a year type guys. You're nothing. You're going to get booted to the side. You add no value to this hobby. No value at all. No value at all. You think you do, but you don't.
Yeah, you think you do.
You think you do. And like Ryan said, in the past, 10 years ago, Blowout added something to the hobby. He had a website. He had a customer base. Topps didn't have that. Where did we add value originally in this hobby as well? We started putting up the checklist. Topps didn't put up the checklist to their own products. And Beckett was like a month, it would show up on their website like a month later. So there was no checklist to the products unless you physically bought it. And they used to put them in the products themselves occasionally. And so you could find a checklist that way. So we added value to the business of trading cards and made north of $1 million by putting checklists on our website. And what happened, Ryan? That industry got disrupted. Two or three, 4, 5, 10 other websites decided to start doing it. But who started doing it wisely? Well, Panini and Topps started putting, and we even did it for a while when they were putting it on their website. They weren't doing a very good job at it. Beckett started getting better at it. Cardboard Connection did it well. A lot of other sites out there started doing checklists well. And what did we decide to do?
Go home.
We're not selling checklists anymore. And we're still around. When we were putting up checklists, I didn't have one of these. I didn't have a house that I owned. I was driving a 1972 Mercedes, I think it was. Not a 2020 fully loaded. Okay. So when it just shows you, we are actually proof that we got into this business in 2000. I mean, we've been in the card business for a long time, but sports card radio was given birth to sometime in 2008 and the very beginning of 2009. So we're talking about 12, 13 years ago. And we started out primarily putting information up on our website and checklists and things like that, because that's where the gap in the market was. And look, maybe Fanatics starts coming out with products and they don't know nothing about checklists. They don't give a shit about it. Maybe there you go. There's your opportunity. We've also seen over the last, especially over the last year, price value. So card values was really was something that Beckett did, and they didn't do it very well. So we've seen the Card Investor Guy launch his own app. We've seen Card Ladder. We've seen many other websites, and eBay's expanding into it now, where you're getting to track the value of these cards. And so there was a hole in the market. People got in and they decided to fill it. And so that's really what I would be concentrating over the next year, 2 years, 3 years. Again, we are on, this is Black Friday. This is the 7.2 earthquake, 7.2 magnitude earthquake. The buildings are crumbled and they're falling down. Nobody's even thinking about rebuilding yet. We're taking stock of the situation. We're making sure everybody's okay. And we are thinking when in the future, when we start to rebuild. And so I would take stock of those situations, but just understand things get disrupted all the time. And it's the most successful people in the world love those opportunities. Just personally, I'll share a quick story with you here, and then maybe we'll start to wrap things up. But to start this year off, 2021 that we're in, my wife voluntarily left her job. That's multiple thousands of dollars, healthcare, benefits, retirement account, gone from our family. I have 2 kids, a mortgage, a house, and obviously expensive habits as well. My number one income from a website almost all went away. It really went down by about 80% of it went away. So the two primary sources of income for my family went very close to zero in January. This is January. We're talking about 6 or 7 months ago. Okay. Today, things have never been better financially. I met with a real estate agent yesterday. My wife and I are going to go in on investment condos and properties here in California. Whether or not that turns out to be a good investment, I don't know. But things are going well because we continued to persevere. There were other things that I had lined up. There were other things that I'm talented at and can work at. And believe me, if you break cards right now and you think that's the only thing that you have talent, or that you have a hobby shop and that's the only thing that you can possibly do, you're selling yourself short. You can do a lot. You can pivot. We pivoted from sports from 2008, 2009 to, I don't know, it was 20, maybe 11 or 12, or I don't remember exactly. Maybe it was a little longer than that. We were making lots of money off sports card radio. We're talking 6 figures and plus per year from the website. And then the eBay revenue started to go down. They changed things. That went away. The opportunities for the checklist and the traffic for that continued to go down. And we continue to move on. Does sports card radio still make money today? Yeah. Does it support ourselves and our families anymore? No. But we use the skills that we learned from sports card radio and the dedication and a lot of the things we learned and started to apply those to other things. Okay. The podcast doesn't exist a lot anymore because I've taken my speaking skills and taken them over to YouTube to talk about stocks. And now I have 90,000 subscribers and I can make $2,000 to $5,000, $6,000, $7,000 a month posting videos on YouTube, depending on how hard I want to work and those types of things. So 10 years of doing podcasts for free have parlayed into a YouTube channel about stocks, not trading cards. And so I don't want anybody out there to think that this is the end. This is the beginning for many of you and for many people in this hobby. Is it the end for Blowout? Probably. Is it the end for the employees at Topps? Potentially. Is it the end for the employees at Panini? Potentially. Is it the end for many group breakers? Probably. Is it the end for a lot of the little smaller people that we don't hear about? They don't post on social media, or they only do it casually. Is it the end for a lot of them? Probably, if they relied on their direct account and those types of things. If
And
the
even
direct account,
flipping new cards, the kind of the buy and flip, the grading and all that, that's all gonna be gone.
yeah. I mean, we saw that with PSA this last year as well, with the backlog, with the cutting off of that service, with the raising of that fees to just an incredible level. That has brought in other opportunities. And I think these guys over at Fanatics realize that as well. Instead of being able to charge $400 for a card, they might be able to do it for 20 because they got the card right there and they made it. And so, I think we'll see some disruption. It's the end for a lot of people. And it might not be that you type in blowout card, you're watching this 3 years from now and you go to blowoutcards.com and it's completely gone. That is possible. Okay. But it's not like the end of how things were going. And we have reached like such a high level where the hobby is. And that's why this is such a remarkable day, that the hobby had reached the highest point in terms of sales, interest, everything I can think of in the hobby is at a peak. And one man, I know he's got a big team behind him. Okay. But that's often how it is in business. Think of Apple, you think of Amazon, you think of Jeff Bezos. Jeff Bezos got 1 million employees behind him that do all the work. Okay. But we basically had one man walk through the door and said, the card business is now mine. The card business is now owned by Fanatics. And if you want to make money in the card business, it is going to go through me. Just like jerseys and any kind of authentic memorabilia, you want to buy a 49er hat out here in California, maybe you can find one at a Target. Maybe it's not going to be a very nice one. You certainly could go to a Lids. You certainly could go to a Foot Locker and maybe find one.
Don't they own Lids?
They might even own Lids. I don't know.
We might own Lids. I don't know.
I don't know. Since he's not a public company and I spend my time on public companies, I don't know. I knew more about his GSI commerce business than I do his Fanatics business, to be honest with you. But I think it's going to be different. It's going to be a new day and a new opportunity. And I think that's where the hobby was headed anyways. And I think one man walked through the door today and said, the card hobby, not just baseball cards, we're talking baseball, football, and basketball cards. This industry is now mine. It is going to be done my way and is going to be done on my terms. And we're still going to be in a stage where we figure out what those terms are. But look at any NBA owner, look at any NFL owner, and look at how they run their businesses. These men and women who own these teams are the smartest and most savvy people in terms of business in the world. Because owning a football team, owning a basketball team outside of the Cowboys, outside of the Lakers, it's pretty much a passion business. It's not really something to buy. You don't buy an NBA, especially the MLB. You don't buy an MLB team to go buy a yacht. Okay. You already have yacht money and you have so much money left over that you go buy an MLB team. Okay. So it's going to be done differently. You have big money in the hobby now. Before it was little money, little guys, Topps, Panini, little companies, honestly, in the grand scheme of things. We're talking about $1 billion company. Okay. That's in the public stock market, $1 billion company. To be truthful to you, on my investor channel, YouTube, I won't even look at a company that's worth less than $1 billion. It's not even that company is not big enough to even think about. And so Topps and Panini are little tiny companies. I know for a lot of you guys out there, they have a lot. I was hearing on
Their
Twitter,
whole
they have
world.
a lot of stuff going on. They sell candy and they sell F1 and soccer. Guys, this is like a day job to a billionaire. This is like, the on his run, he could manage Panini and Tops, like literally on his morning jog or to go get his morning coffee, he could run that business. Okay. This is nothing to them. And then in that integration, we had these little guys, Tom Fish, Blowout Cards. You had some breakers out there. Then you had GTS and Southern Hobby. And those guys serve a purpose. Okay. Gaming cards, those types of things, board games. So they're a little bit bigger. Okay. But the Peach State and these little companies that just had master distributorship with Panini and Tops, these guys are small guys. They're gone. And as we get to Tops and Panini were already small. Everybody else to the side is even smaller. And so we are going to see a complete wipeout of that good old boys network. And it's going to start a new age, a new generation. And I'm personally excited about it. And we'll be excited to talk about it and discuss it and analyze it. And quite frankly, just simply be witnesses to it here over at sportscardradio.com. I've spent a lot of time talking, Ryan. Feel free to any points that you'd like to make.
No, I mean, I think we could, I think we've talked about it. I think there's still more things to come. Certainly on the Tops and Panini's end. What's their next move? What does Rubin want to do next? What are some of these ancillary businesses who have about a 2-year timeline before their business model and business changes? And we spent, several hours talking. We didn't even talk about the fact that the largest seller on eBay, one of the largest sellers on eBay, period, but the largest sports card seller, they literally, a $1 billion company kicked him off his website and accused him of criminal activity on the way out the door.
A crime,
which is stunning, which we could have talked 2 hours just about that. We didn't mention that one bit. I'm sure we'll have more time to talk about that in the future with one respect or another, either an FBI indictment or just talking about how the business has shrunk for him. So certainly, and then with this whole deal, that's certainly much bigger, much more implications for essentially everyone in the market who is relying in some ways on this new product or has interest in it. It's totally fundamentally changed everything. And, again, we're going to be looking back and thinking about, 8/19 and Black Thursday and essentially what happened to the sports card market in 2021. The other thing I can't get over is the fact that, sports cards have become so popular especially the last 2 years. And it's actually the worst thing that ever happened for some of these companies and some of these people. They've had a heck of a ride the last 2 years, but if sports cards didn't get so popular, eBay never would have kicked PWCC off the marketplace. It's still been in whatever thing. eBay would have been off trying to grow all these other opportunities. But one of their golden gooses, besides Beanie Babies, baseball cards blew up again. And then they probably took a way harder look at it. They probably have some plans that they need to set aside. This Rubin deal kind of affects them because Rubin has enough money to create his own eBay and create his own thing. So they've got to shore up their end of the stick as well. And they kick, Brent Higgins and PWCC to the curb, which is astonishing. So,
and accuse him of a crime.
And
kicking him to the curb is
what they've done to thousands of sellers, hundreds of thousands of sellers.
Kicking a seller to the curb on Amazon, on anywhere, it
happens every day
on Twitter. That happens every day. They kicked him to the curb and emailed customers and accused him of a crime. Not only a crime, but a crime that is punishable by prison time. And on top of that, Bill Mastro of Mastro Auctions got convicted of shill bidding and went to jail for what they incriminated them on. It is remarkable. And I tell you what, if you're the FBI, eBay, I don't have the market cap up here. I got to imagine eBay's a 10, 15, $20 billion company, maybe more. Maybe it's more than that. I don't know.
More than that. Right.
It's not a company I analyze because I'm better. Amazon's one I'm much more bullish on, but a company of that size publicly announced that this company that's doing $150 million a year in business that we made money on, we said, no, thank you. You're gone. And not only that, you committed a crime. This is why we feel, and we don't have any confirmation of this, or I should say, we can't confirm or deny this, but we feel strongly that eBay's hand was forced in this because public companies of that size do not do that without running that by many lawyers and well-paid and very good lawyers. And there's not a lot of great lawyers without a mountain of evidence that would say that's a good idea. To even loosely say that your number one client, we're going to kick you off and you committed a crime in prison, like an imprisonable crime. Like, lawyers would not let eBay do that if it wasn't crystal clear that a very serious crime happened. And that is why we believe that eBay's hand was forced by the law. And the law in this case would likely be the FBI, because they have the capability, and this would likely fall inside their jurisdiction since they did this with FBI was the one involved in, or maybe a district attorney or something like that was involved with the Bill Mastro case. And so that's why we are so certain that that not only a crime was committed, but a very, very, very serious one by PWCC was absolutely stone cold committed by, because eBay would not do this with anything other than the absolute stone cold nuts against PWCC. It was just absolutely astonishing.
It's unbelievable.
I don't know what's more unbelievable, that happened. And it's kind of believable to a certain degree because we knew this was likely happening. It's likely happening across the board. But the fact that eBay did it and accused them of crimes, pretty unbelievable, to be honest with you. They could have quietly kicked them off for the exact same reasons and not actually publicly said, hey, you actually committed a crime. But they took it to that next level. So, wow, that's incredible. And I think I even got a tweet today. I'll read it out. This is more like patting ourselves on the back. We're late in the show. We might as well do this. But this guy actually says, I remember you guys talking about how much sense it made for Fanatics to win the contract and potentially take over the industry years ago. So we've actually, and I remember.
Yeah, we've talked about Fanatics a lot.
Yeah. And we've talked about how that is the company that if they wanted to roll this up, because they had their own card show, they have the website,
and he's done it before
with the athletes. It's something he's capable of. He had a relationship with the league. It made that was, I think we talked about, our discussion was always like, what's one company that would want to come in here and do that? And I think we thought about it and we said, well, Fanatics is really the only one where it makes even a little bit of sense for them to do it. Because they had a lot of the ducks in the row. They had the money and all those types of things. And so the Fanatics deal is not necessarily surprising to us. It's surprising a lot to the industry. I mean, these guys are more worried about, 2021 tops and the checklist and whether or not there's going to be Minnesota Twins cards in there or what the image variations are going to be. And quite frankly, that's how I am with my watches. I care about where the bezel is going to be. Most people don't give a shit about that. Right. And so I get that card fondlers exist. Watch fondlers exist. People out there, whatever you're passionate about, it's okay. But from a business perspective, I wouldn't say that. I was really surprised the fact that he rolled up, it appears rolled up all 3 licenses. And that was very surprising to me. And the speed he did that, And I do believe
Well, to
that,
coordinate it too, like I
yeah,
mean, to be able to coordinate that is you've got to be on his level, basically. You're following Shaq, you and Jeff Bezos. Like that's basically like, and all
that's
those
that
people
level.
probably following them back. So that's basically what you have to be, is you have to be able to make that move.
Right.
And, that's a
And that's
7-year
why
relationship with Topps, which is he
it's a
kicked to the
joke
curb.
that he couldn't buy Topps and handle that. And he couldn't buy Panini and handle that. Stop. This guy literally just bought 3 licenses in a row from the richest people in the United States. He had to negotiate this with and obviously some of these guys are his buddies because he owns a team and that he's in that fraternity. So he's basically negotiating with his own fraternity brothers and sisters. But these people want to do, but he's also negotiating with some players. And players don't necessarily look at owners in the same light as other owners look at other owners. So it wasn't the easy, it wouldn't have been because dealing with your fellow fraternity of owners, probably not that hard. Once you're in that fraternity, the negotiations, are to go to a certain degree. But to pull that off with the players, and to have the nutsack to do it, he has no card brand. He has no experience. Quote, and let's not forget, Topps and Panini don't actually manufacture these cards. That's why I call him a card maker or a card designer. They don't actually make the cards. He has no experience doing any of that. Okay.
He hasn't been lobbed softballs by a YouTube influencer yet.
No.
So he had nothing. He walked in here with nothing, put all his money on the table, blew everybody out of the water, gave the league's equity, and fundamentally changed the business for everybody going forward here, especially in a couple of years. So time's ticking, and, boy, the National was like the Last Supper or something, or the last meal, basically. Everybody was talking about how great it was. I think it's basically the last meal.
That was it. That's it.
Because next year's going to be totally different. You're literally could be looking at a scenario where Topps is like 6 months from being a company, or they make F1 in soccer or whatever, you know what I mean? So Panini too. And then, totally fundamental. And then you have breakers, you have Blowout, you have distributors, you have people on down the line with relationships with these companies that are now fundamentally changed. Your angle in the business is fundamentally changed because how you get product will fundamentally be different. And, the products themselves, how they're sold, how they're produced, how they're made, they're all going to be thought about in a totally different way. And they're not going to factor you in. I think that's the thing. Panini, when they bought, they factored everybody in. They hired Hackler, they hired all these Donruss guys, and it basically was the good old network 0.2, just with Panini logos. Right. And it took a while to bring the kind of the collector in and get him in and, change their mind about things. And they came. Everybody said, "Oh, I'm not going to buy them. No more Topps Chrome football, no more Topps Chrome basketball." And you guys all fell in love with Optic Select and Prism and all the high-end brands. Thought, they're not going to make Exquisite and SP Authentic and no, you guys fell in love with National Treasures, Flawless, which is Panini's own brand, and a bunch of other ones. So, you're going to fall in love with Fanatics in the same way. The fondlers will eventually fall in line. They'll kick and scream for a little while, but eventually they're addicted one way or the other. So they're going to fall in line. How, these businesses, if you're a business person, you're probably not addicted. This has just become kind of easy money for you. You have a relationship where you've been doing it for a little while here. This is kind of what you better be ready to pivot. You better be ready to do something different, because you're not just going to be able to call up GTS Southern Hobby or your direct account and get that case every year. Mike Fruit, man, you guys out there, you breakers and all you guys who always brag about the case. I spend
less time on our Twitter and Facebook feed talking about our closed shop. People always want to get on there and say, "You closed a shop." Guys, what do I have in my window here? In every video that I do, this close sign is right here. And it reminds me that failure is your greatest opportunity. If we never opened this shop and closed it, would have never started a podcast, would have never started a website that made me $1 million, wouldn't have never gained those skills of a podcast, website, marketing, content that then rolled into other websites. Believe me, Sports Card Radio has made $1 million. I had to split it with you. I've set up other websites that have made probably 8 or 9. I don't think I'm quite at $1 million on a site, but I'm very close to $800,000 or $900,000. That all came to me. Okay. And I leave this sign up here that says closed NorCal Sports. It has the hours on it. This is the one thing that we have left from the store. We might have some very small things around, but this is
grab
the one
bags
thing
I found.
Yeah, grab bags. This is what we have left right here is a closed sign. And I put it here, not because I think it looks really cool on my investor videos. I don't leave it here because, by accident. It's here every day to remind me that when you try to do exceptional things, you will fail. And so the most exceptional people in the world actually constantly fail. It's the people that are actually scared of failure that are not trying exceptional things. You've got to try exceptional. If you try exceptional things, you will fail. And so it's that failure that shows you are trying to be exceptional. If you are not failing, you are not trying hard enough. Opening a card shop right before there was a financial crisis, obviously we didn't foresee that, but we were in our mid-20s. We didn't know really much about business, but we tried. And it didn't work out, but we didn't fall flat on our face and we picked ourselves up. And quite frankly, by closing this, what did I do the 2 months after we closed this? I didn't have a job. I was feeling sorry for myself. I was wondering what I was going to do. Then the stock market crashed and I took a huge interest in the stock market. And now the stock market has created so much wealth for me and my family. My wife doesn't have to work anymore. And my wife had a good job, okay? Like an advanced degree job. She doesn't work anymore because I failed here. So out there, if you're out there and you're watching this and you're worried, you're a smaller breaker, you're a smaller whatever, or even if you're a larger breaker or a mid-tier, that type of mid-tier in this business, and you're worried about the next year or two about failing, that failing is your biggest opportunity. And if you try exceptional things, you are going to fail. Think about how many jump shots Kobe Bryant has missed. Think about how many putts and Tiger Woods has won 15 major championships. How many did he lose? Hundreds, probably. Darn near 100 of them. So you are going to fail a lot if you try very, very, very exceptional things. And so don't be scared of that. It is Black Thursday. Now we're into Friday over here on the West Coast. It was a Black Thursday event for a lot of you, and it is going to impact you. It's going to impact you financially. It is going to impact people to a very, very large degree. We've seen this in other industries that we've been a part of and been fans of. It's going to be painful for some of you, many of your friends, your community. But if you pick yourself up, if you take that failure, you take the things you learned, you apply it to something new, your success is likely around the corner. If you sit around like Mike Fruitman is probably going to do, he's going to sit around and say, well, how can I call Fanatics and get my one case that I need?
They're going to owe us something. Rubin owes me something.
Yeah, let's all band together, guys, and email this guy and tell him how important my shop in Aurora, Colorado, and yours over in Bohunk, Oklahoma is. Let's go tell this guy how important we are and how we need to have everything just stay the same and how he needs to keep selling to a distributor and have them butt slap me and send me some products. If that's your attitude, you're going to have one of these up there real quick, and you're probably going to have to need a day job really quick. So depending on your attitude and your skill set, some of you, I think, are going to have a fantastic next couple years as we transition away from the old model into the new model. Some of you guys weren't that intelligent already, didn't have many skills, didn't offer the hobby much other than you ass slapped a couple people and got some product. Those days are over. And if you don't look to, that's not exceptional either. Be able to walk in a room and ass slap a guy, it's not really an exceptional skill. So if you can develop those, set up your own e-commerce website, start selling some other stuff, sell, pivot into something else, pivot into a service, pivot into content, pivot into whatever you want. Maybe pivot into something. We've really started doing something. We started with Sports Card Radio, started with a podcast, started making lots of money. Now that's not really what we do. We go to these card shows and we're making a little bit of money, but it's not that, you're in a little bit different situation. You're single. You don't have kids. I have way more obligations and things I got to worry about. Yeah. So I can't afford to just make a little bit of money over here. So, you gotta move on, and depending on your situation. And if you don't have kids, you're a single guy, young guy, whatever it is, have some fun. That would be my advice. But it is going to be a time of change, but also exciting if you're fans of the Sports Card Show, because this is the second time we were here this week. And I would have bet this thing right here on my wrist that the PWCC story, when it broke, was going to be the stone cold biggest thing probably for the rest of the year. We could milk that into articles and content and everything and tweets and memes for the rest of the year. And then Thursday came. And so I'm buckled up. And Thursday's like just the little domino. We got a whole line of dominoes, and there's blowout cards, and there's breakers, and there's all these people that have hated on us over the years. They're maybe about to fall. And so will we do a little bit of tap dancing on some of these guys' graves and whip out our cocks and not only pump them a little bit, maybe take a little bit of a piss on their grave? Yeah, we probably will. So expect not necessarily twice in a week, not necessarily twice in a month, but certainly over here on YouTube, like I explained during the PWCC podcast, we will put up lots of content over here on YouTube. It's more fun. It's more creative. It makes, we're not necessarily doing it for the money, but it's just a little bit more fun. It's a creative outlet. Certainly for me, I've got jobs like selling on Amazon. I've got jobs like websites. I've got jobs, even like my investor channel on YouTube. It's a little less creative. And the card stuff allows us to go to card shows. It allows us to spend some time together as well. I've got 2 kids. I'm busy, those types of things. We don't get to spend as much time together as we did 10 years ago when we were living together running Sports Card Radio. And so those types of things, allow you to do that. And so I would focus on those things. If I was out there, if you're the average collector and you weren't around in 08, every of the fondlers out there was like, I'm not going to collect a Panini. I don't know. That sounds like a sandwich. I've never heard of them.
They said it every time.
I'm never gonna buy these cards. It's not gonna work.
The football collector said it. The basketball collector said it. Everybody, they all said it. Y'all
and then
lied.
When they got the PA, it was like, no, they're gonna fail on PA. Now you see these guys that were all like bled tops as blood. Optic baseball's pretty nice. Donruss baseball's Prism baseball is actually pretty nice. And if they had logos on them, they probably would be better than Topps. I mean, I got an allocation, not an allocation, but I get Topps products. They're not that cool. What Topps makes on the baseball side really isn't that good. There's a couple different sets that are okay, but none of it's that cool.
None of it's changed in the last 20 fucking years. So
no, none of it's really changed. The price of it's about the same. The experience of it is about the same. There's a ton of sticker autographs in it. And so Fanatics a great partner. They have more relationships with these athletes than probably Panini and Topps combined, especially big athletes. Okay. Upper Deck might be the only company. And in fact, I truly believe this. Upper Deck is the only company with a slate of athletes that pretty much dwarfs everybody. When you got Jordan, LeBron, Tiger, Gretzky, That's it. Who cares? So, if I was Michael Rubin, I think the first tweet I said today was that, hey, if I'm Upper Deck, I would slide into Michael Rubin's DMs and I mentioned him. I don't know what series of tweets he started following me on because I was including him in a lot of stuff. But my
That's
very
wild.
first tweet was, hey, if I'm Upper Deck, I'm sliding in this guy's DM because Upper Deck actually has something
Value.
that he probably really wants is an autograph relationship with Michael Jordan,
And
with
LeBron James.
and Tiger Woods and Wayne Gretzky. That combined with the license is,
and their old brands have as much value. You could argue their brands have as much value as these other dork companies.
For sure. And so if I'm Upper Deck, tell you what, I'm getting on the, if they want me to fire off a DM, I could do that for him. Maybe
you're the one who could slide into his DMs for him. You could broker part of the deal and get a piece.
Yeah, who knows where this is going to work out. So maybe we'll have Michael on the show next week. So stay tuned for that.
Let's go down and do it at his house live. See if you can broker that. And if you're too busy, I'll go party with old Ruby
in the kitchen or whatever.
Tell him,
hey Jeff, you want to come over and talk about the Whole Foods deal that you did a few years ago? You want to talk about that?
Yeah,
it's like,
he can probably
who's at the
send
door?
the plane out.
It's Shaq.
Yeah.
So stay tuned to sportscardradio.com if you're interested in this stuff. If you want to sit around and whine and mope and speculate on what's going to happen, we certainly did a lot of speculation here on the channel. But I showed you the guy that executed the deal followed me today. I don't think he would have done that if I was spewing a bunch of garbage like a lot of people were, and spewing a lot of stuff that didn't make a lot of sense. So I think we're gonna have fun with it, though. I think it's gonna be a good time, and I think that the future is now very, very close, and it looks exciting. It looks different, and I'm very excited about what potentially could be down the road for this hobby. That about wraps it up. Ryan, thank you for tuning in, or thank you for joining us and tuning into the show. Everybody out there, we'll be back again soon. But for now, we are out of here.